but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the final round of the GT4 TCR Championship here at Evolution Sim Racing. Tonight, you join myself, Joseph Glass, and Mr. Dara Thacker in the commentary booth, as always, as we look to conclude the remaining 4 of our 5 championships after our GT4 Pro class was locked out by William Humphrey earlier in the season. And these drivers, after managing the tricky nature of Bathurst, must now contend with the narrow and technical Brands Hatch circuit, the first time this championship has arrived in the United Kingdom since our pre-season campaign all the way back in December last year. So Dara, it's nearly all said and done. It could be all said and done after just one race tonight for maybe 3 out of the 5 championships. But for those 2 AM divisions, particularly that GT4 category and the Teams Championship, I think it'll come right down to the wire tonight.
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit left to be decided. I think teams and drivers coming into this will know that, and there's always something on the table. There's also those top 3 positions to be filled as well. They're not all confirmed. Trophies to be won from for drivers in any of our top 3. So I think there's a lot to win tonight, and drivers are going to have to go get it.
Absolutely right. Let me just preface real quick. My throat's not in the best condition. I think Dara's got a little something as well, so we'll do our best. But I think by the end of it, I might be struggling just a little bit. So forgive me if we sound a little bit off this evening. But we've got one more session to get through before the off-season break, of course, before we get underway with our new European GT series on a Sunday and the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Season 8 Championship. So looking forward to getting underway with those. We'll get a run through of the standings, and as we said, still lots to play for in the final round, which is like what you like to see. Obviously, one of those titles wrapped up early. Same could have been said in the GT3 Championship, but it's good that we can arrive at the last event of a season and still have so much left to play for. So then, a quick look and a quick thank you to our sponsors. For the final time this season, it'll be interesting. We might change up a few of these sponsors this time in a couple of weeks' time, shall I say. But thank you as always to the Kame Group, the GP2 Group, and Keenan Eco Energy for their continued support of this series. And then a quick look at the calendar then. We've made it all the way to the end. As I said, the pre-season outings around Donington and Cadwell Park, the last time that these drivers arrived in the UK. Since then, we've made our way from the end of last year all the way through until March, and what a championship it's been. Quite busy. 4 classes, of course, the teams to contend with, a lot going on out on the track. And with us tonight, 2/3 of the championship, which I don't think we've seen for a little while. Just over 40 drivers will be with us tonight. And I'm not sure how things are going to go as they try and navigate their way through turns 1 and 2. Fingers crossed that everything is okay in the end. So, a look first at the GT4 Pro class, of course, and William Humphrey, as we said, the record speaks for itself. 1,060 points. So many points, actually, that the graphic wasn't even prepared to deal with that. So, that's 1,060 points for the champion for the Glasstec DXT Porsche driver. Ben Smith, 212 points behind him. Now, it'll be interesting, actually. I'm not sure if Ben is with us tonight. A quick glance at the timing tower. It looks like he is not, which opens the door for Yannis Olber to step up into that position. Yannis does have a quali ban to serve this evening from that accumulation of license points and will start at the back of the grid. But we've seen it done before. There is an opportunity to try and get yourself into that reverse order, try and get a good position ahead of race 2. 24 points the difference then to make it a 1-2 finish in the championship. And these guys are also fighting for the team's championship as well. So it's locked in at the moment for those two. Thomas Pugh and Marius Hibmer are next up to round at the top 5, but the gap's getting a little bit bigger in that top 5. It's 102 points down to Adam Atherton. He's with us tonight as well. Jeremy Ullman's only 5 points behind him. He'll fancy getting inside the top 6. Stephen Donnelly, Jeff Hibbert and Laurence Ouden inside the top 10. Loudon's, I believe, another one of those drivers who will be starting at the back of the field. I think one of three drivers tonight to start at the back in that GT4 category. So I'm glad that we've sort of settled that arrangement that we had with the gap, you might remember, Dara, around Mugello. Very, very large gap. Not the case this time. We've got that resolved. Thankfully for those 3 drivers, it won't be such a difficult task to overcome. Joe Sparrow and Mitchell Costas. Of course, Mitchell hasn't attended too much. If Joe Sparrow's with us tonight, he'll fancy his chances at getting inside the top 10 for what could be the first time this season.
Yeah, a few drivers looking to get themselves into some better positions, but by far the best category looking into the final race is going to be this GT4 AM class, with the championship leading margin down to only 6 points. Liam Fraser is just ahead of Niels Kula, 904 to 898. 8 wins for Fraser, 7 for Kula. They're also being chased as well by Robin L. Brown. He's 50 points off the championship lead. You can't count him out. Of course, there's 100 on the table tonight, so he is within range, but after results from the last couple of weeks, all 3 of those drivers have secured themselves a trophy. Edward Grove too far back, 172 points back on Robin L. Brown, so will not be able to get himself into the top 3. He's going to have to try and defend his top 4 though, because Luke Bailey is not far behind him. 1 win for Edward Grove, along with the 4 podiums, 2 for Luke Bailey in terms of podiums. Let's see if either one of them can increase on that count this evening. Rob Gregg, he's only had 1 podium on the season, but after not being here for the opening round at Zolder, he's put together an incredibly consistent season, and he has himself just shy of that 600 point threshold. Klaas Vellen and Dean Cheeseby, they are tied on points on 568. I know that the graphic has Cheeseby ahead of Vellen, but I have Vellen down as having more podiums, so or more second places. So I think he may be just ahead on countback, but that's not going to matter if they gain different points to each other over the course of the evening. John Lubrook and Daniel Paul inside the top 10 as well. They'll look to try and maybe move forward, but you know, points are going to be scarce tonight. For Matt Stace and for Charlie Stoddard, they're just going to be hoping to give themselves a good evening's worth of racing. They're not really in it for the top 10, but you know, there's nothing against a nice evening.
Absolutely right. So yeah, you make a good point about the guys toward the front. Robin Noel Brown still within a chance. He'll fancy a little double championship run, of course. Did well in the GT3 series, but I think the favoured hand goes toward Liam Fraser and Nils Kula at the moment. What a season, what a debut season it would have been for Mr. Fraser. Both good results in the GT3 series and also here. Be one hell of a start for the Moonshiner driver then. So we take a look now over at the TCR category, and sadly, well, it's good news for Mr. McKinley, but sadly, a championship that was still up for grabs has all but been settled with Logan's decision to pull out of the championship last week. So Andrew effectively takes that championship by default, 1,200 points for him, with Jaden Scotton being 108 points away. He's only 8 points, well 9 points really, away from contention. So that is pretty much confirmed for the Scotsman at the front of the championship. It will also sort of give us an interesting dynamic in the teams championship, with Team Shelter having been there or thereabouts for the entirety of the season. Missing their lead driver now puts a little bit more pressure on Jay Coley and Anthony Hilton. So it was Jaden Scotton, the last man inside the top 3, of course, 80 points down to Jay. So it will be quite a challenge for him to try and get himself inside the top 3. Jaden just needs one good result in the first race, and he can more or less secure that one. Coley and Hilton then fighting for the team's championship. I think that'll be where the eyes are at the moment. Scott Malcolm and James Howarth inside the top 7, not out of the fight with each other either at the moment. Max Levinciani and Kevin Marshall say well inside the top 10. Nothing's going to change there. Keith Calhoun hasn't been with us for the entirety of the second half of the season. It kind of shows the lack of depth in these classes, because Branko Kubovic, we say this every week, 66 points scored all in one round. It's enough to get inside the top 12, because I don't think there's many other drivers in the field in this class at all, but lots to play for toward the top end, particularly in the team's championship for the guys competing in this class.
Finally, we can have a bit of a look over at the TCR round standings, who are being led quite considerably and quite confidently by Hussein Dessler this season. 73 points is his advantage coming into this race. That is despite Gordon Hales having a run of the last 5 races being a second, and a win. Just going to show how consistent Huss has been. All 9 of his wins have come in the three race evenings. Road America, 3 tournament races, he won all 3. Kota, 3 tournament races, he won all 3. And the same can be said at Mugello. So he's been winning on those important evenings, and that is what's carrying him to the top of the tree. Martin Kenyon is going to be looking to hang on to that P3 in the championship, as he is sat on 789 points in that Yorkshire TXT car. Danny Weir is 4th. He's had a decent enough season, mainly in the GT3s, but he put together a few good races in the TCRs as well on the Monday night. Andrew Fellows and Rob Smith are looking to maybe overhaul him this evening. Andrew Fellows with his consistency, despite only having the 3 podiums, getting him to the top 5 of the championship. Steve Rubino, a win in the opening evening at Zolder is his highlight of the season to this point. He can only be in P7 best by the end of the night. Dean Sargent, Jason Hannington, Mark Parkhurst round out our top 10, with Ashley Brooks a very long way down. We say it regularly. He got 150 of his 201 points in one round and hasn't been here since. David Randalls is P12, and again, he's not been here since Road America round 2, but he's still in the top 12.
Finally then, a quick look at the teams before we head to qualifying on trackside. So what I alluded to earlier, it's that 21-point lead at the moment for the Glasstec Racing DXT Motorsports team. Yannis Aubert and William Humphrey with us tonight. I believe Francois not with us again, so it's all eyes on those two to see how they can do, of course. Yannis Aubert starting at the back of the grid with that qualifying ban. He's got to make his way through the field, of course. Team Shelter, who've done so well so far this season, have been left, of course, with Jay Corley and Anthony Hilton. All good for them. If they can get a good qualifying performance in, they'll start right toward the front of that TCR field and can try and cement those early points in that team's championship. Nils Kuller, Mark Parsons, Thomas Pugh, all 3 of those drivers here tonight. A little bit more of a deficit to overcome for those guys, of course. 92 points the difference between those and the leaders. It could be overcome, but of course it would require a pretty disastrous performance from both of the teams ahead if those guys were to try and get their hands on that title. They'll still be hoping to bring home that trophy. However, easier said than done when you've got the likes of Noel Brown, Ludbrook and Sorika Dessler breathing down your neck. Just 2 points in it between those guys. So we've got a fight at the front for the title, and we've got a fight between P3 and P4 to bring home the last remaining trophies on offer in the team's championship. So let's cut over to trackside then and see how the drivers are getting on out there on the circuit at the moment. About to cross the line is Joe Sparas. Let's ride on board with the JXT racing driver, see how he gets on, of course, and we'll ride on for a lap around Brands Hatch. Let me just preface quickly, I'm going to do my best to mute the mic when I go into a little coughing fit. Apologies to you, Dara, and that's not something I can do on your end, so you're just going to have to put up with that, but hopefully it won't come around too much then. Here comes the 3-1-1 then, into the braking zone, into turn 2. Quite a slow speed right-hander, of course. Good place to make up an overtaking opportunity through the fast-flowing left-hander now. You want to use all the exit on the exit curb there. You can really run the car quite far out wide. Now one of the trickiest braking zones on the circuit, actually. Pretty tricky uphill left-hander. You got to turn the car while still on the brakes and try and get a good exit up and over the crest. Now down the long run through Pilgrim's Drop before Hawthorne's Bend. High speed right hand corner here. Be easy for these GT4 cars. Probably slightly harder for the TCRs, although they are on a circuit that suits their cars a little bit better than what we've seen over the last few weeks then. Past through Westfield Bend and into, what is that, Dingledell's Corner, I believe. And then Stirling's one of the more familiar corner names here. The left-hander, one more braking zone to go. Down the clearway straight for the 3-1-1. Looks like a pretty tidy lap so far. We've got lots of times flying in already. Just 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session as the JST machine rounds the final corner. He's improved in just 3 of the 6 sectors. Is it going to be an improvement in the final sector? Not quite for Spara. Is he going to put his name on the board at all? Maybe not. Perhaps he went off the circuit at some point. It didn't look like he did, but that's not a valid time so far for the JST machine.
Yeah, gonna have to go. Maybe stick it within the track limits a little bit better next time around. He's got a little bit of time to find his way onto that timing tower, but for the time being, at least, struggling a touch. What can William Humphrey do? Of course, champion in the GT4 Pro class, probably the most dominant champion ESR's ever seen in any particular class. Up to the line, can he improve on that 128.9? You bet he can. 128.7 puts him a little bit clearer of the likes of Thomas Pugh, who sets a decent enough lap time. This won't be an improvement for Humphrey, though. He's gone very wide at the opening turn. Still, lots of times coming in. Edouard Groy popping it up there. Max Nevichani, Danny Weir going into P2 in the TCR AM class. Great to see so many improvements into this session. You know, we can often see drivers tail off a little bit after the opening runs, but that's not looking like it's going to be the case this evening.
Here's Robin Noel Brown then heading up and around. He currently leads the way by a 10th and a little bit over Liam Fraser. Nils Culler needs to improve. He's just half a tenth away from being inside the top 3. Where is Nils out on the circuit then? He's just coming up and through that same corner that we caught Noel Brown. Let's ride on board with the Porsche. We're not going to get his sector times just yet, although I can tell you on this lap it hasn't been an improvement in any sector, I believe, for Nils, so he really needs to get a move on. Of course, only 3 laps to set your times. We have more time in the session than what we really need for a lot of these guys around what is quite a short lap. So it's advantage Noel Brown at the moment. Liam Fraser in a favourable position. Jaden Scotton and Jay Corley there setting the provisional pole time. 1:32.6 in the TCRs. Comes to a stop, does Nils Culler. Let's ride on board with Jay Corley. He's about to set away on his final lap for the team shelter. He's got to really carry the weight of that championship on his shoulders, Dara. At the moment, he's doing exactly that.
Yes, and I think there's going to be a few drivers who feel like they're a lot more under pressure than others this evening, and Jay is absolutely one of those. I think some of the guys who are here, I mean, Josh Ostick here in the GT4 Pros, that's not a name I've seen in quite a while. In fact, he hasn't been here since round 2, so that's why I haven't seen him in a while. You know, these guys just turning up, maybe just for a little bit of a, confidence boost, maybe just for a bit of fun. But for the likes of Jay Corley, with a lot on the line for these guys, I think we are going to see quite a difference between those who really have to push for all of the points they can muster, and some that are going to be just happier to lay back a little bit more and you know, be comfortable this evening, not force the issue, just finish the race and pick up some points and round out the season on a bit of a high. But yeah, pressure on for Jay. Could do with a better lap time, but already on provisional pole position, you can't really get much better than that.
Absolutely right. So we're going to see just a couple more times coming in here. Not too many drivers out on the circuit. Anthony Hilton, here's an interesting one. He's just crossed the line. Hasn't improved. So he'll start down there in P6. Sarika Desler and Hales have both completed their lap. Looks like Gordon has the significant pace over his championship rival, but he'll need a mistake by Hussein if he is to try and etch out a little bit of, well, the points that he needs over Sarika Desler, of course. Coming into tonight, 73 points worse off in a night where you can only earn 100. So he really needs us to have, let's say, a disaster in the opening race, and then that might open the door during race 2. But at the moment, he's done what he needs to do in qualifying, and he's maybe sent a little bit of a message to Sarika Desler with, well, a 4/10th gap, which is quite a lot, really, around a circuit like this. Maybe he might run away with it in that division. And I think, is that the biggest gap that we have? No, William Humphrey, of course, over Marius Hibma, over half a second. But aside from that, the biggest gap that we have in any class.
It's so impressive to see drivers being able to excel at the end of the season and at a track like Brands Hatch, which isn't the longest, where you don't really have that much opportunity to gain some time on the rest. So really impressive to see some of these advantages. Adam Atherton going to P2 in that GT4 Pro class, popping it up within half a second of William Humphrey. But to have William that far in front really, really does show how good the lap time is for him. I'll be very interested to see the dynamic in this GT4 AM class with Niels Kula just a little bit further back. Of course, he's going to be starting much more into the mid-pack of the GT4s. He'll be hoping to get himself into the reverse grid, but there's no guarantees for him. If things were to finish as they are from this race going into race number 2, he's going to be at a bit of a disadvantage to Liam Fraser, and he's going to have to find some points from somewhere. But Liam Fraser still hasn't done technically yet in the session, may try and go again. This lap is absolutely not going to improve.
Oh, pretty slow lap, sadly, for Liam at the moment. In fact, it's actually his 4th lap, so it wouldn't have counted anyway. And that is going to conclude the qualifying session. Charlie Stothard is still out on the circuit, but he's also on his 4th lap, so this one won't count either. So the grid is looking like it's pretty shaped up already at the moment. And I'm just bantering Will in the chat a little bit because he's decided to change his livery, but I'm not sure if he's uploaded it correctly, because the spec map hasn't come through, and I feel like Hoyland put together a lovely livery for the team, and then tonight Will's just added a little bit of his own flair to it. Not quite sure it works though. We'll catch up with that one actually when the race starts, so you can see what I'm saying, Dara. But yeah, Charlie's is looking pretty good. That gold tint, of course, we see him and Luke Bailey rocking a slightly inverted version of that livery. But yeah, one of the standouts, I think, for the KXR racing team. I love me a bit of gold and white. I think it works quite well.
No, so do I. There really has been a few good liveries on display so far this season from the guys. It's always good when they go in the off-season and tinker around a little bit with what they can do. But it's always a fun element of league racing, isn't it? Where you can just design your own livery. Everybody has their own opinions on liveries, particularly in the Formula 1 world. But to be able to make your own, or at least have a little bit of artistic influence over what your team's going for, it's always nice. And it's great that we often see quite a variation in cars. I mean, generally in sim racing, it used to be blue and black were a dominant feature. Now it's a little bit more red and black, but we've got some great colours here. I mean, we've got this gold and white. There's a couple of green cars, those DXTs, of course, that I get it, just basically just photos. But hey, they look cool all the same. Always a fun element, isn't it, to add to the races?
Really, really is, and I'm sure we'll see. Well, best part of any new season is to see who comes not only with the driver's skill, but with the best livery. So we'll be looking forward to that when we get underway on a Thursday night in a few weeks' time from now, of course. We'll see some inverted liveries, I'm sure. Some guys might turn up in the same, and some teams might go for a completely different look, of course. Sadly, not continuing on with this championship, so we can't hope to see anything similar from these guys, but definitely something to look forward to from some of these drivers, which, of course, will maybe make the move over to that Thursday series. Interestingly, actually, Dara, William Humphrey signed up for that one. A little bit of pressure by the team, including myself, but he'll be driving alongside Dale Williams and Nick Stubber in that championship. So be interesting for the first time to see how Mr. Humphrey gets on in a GT3 car next season.
It'll be fun. Williams been so dominant in the GT4s, but GT3's a little bit different. But he's been starting for the front consistently. See what he can do next year, or season, I should say.
So then, I'm going to try and make my way through this grid before we get underway with the race start. So it's William Humphrey who leads the field, as usual, ahead of Adam Atherton in this case. Those two will share the front row, half a second separating those two. Marius Hibmer will share the second row of the grid with the AM-Class pole man of Robin, Noel Brown. Then it will be Liam Fraser directly in behind him. Thomas Pugh, Jeremy Ullemans and Mitchell Costas will start inside the top 8. It'll be John Lubrock and Stephen Donnelly rounding out the front 5 rows of the grid. Luke Bailey and Nils Culler will start ahead of Edward Grobe and Rob Gregg. It'll be Klaas Vellen and Josh Ostick, with Jeff Hibbert and Josh Parra, Charlie Stothard and Daniel Poole, the top 20. Scrolling through, Matt Stace, the last of those GT4 drivers, before we get to the TCR category of Jay Corley and Alok Iyengar starting ahead of Jaden Scott. An interesting battle that we've seen between Corley and Scott developing throughout the entire season. Andrew McKinley, the soon-to-be / is the champion, will start in behind them in P4. Gordon Hales has a good starting position with 2 pro drivers in between him and his rival Scott Malcolm, and Hilton will start ahead of Sarika Desler. Then it's Andrew Fellows inside the top 30. James Howarth, Mark Parkhurst, Max Nevinchardi and Martin Kenyon in a bit of a cross-class mixture there. 2 pros and 2 AMs starting side by side. Danny Weir and Kevin Marshall say will round out the top 36. It'll be Dean Sargent and Steve Rubino, the last of the qualifiers, before we get to Yannis Aubert, Lawrence Denalton and Dean Sheesby, the 3 GT4 drivers serving their qualifying bans. It's on a pit lane start though, so they will be able to get on with things at the back of the TCR pack.
Very interesting race. Opening 30 minutes, of course, particularly in that GT4 AM category with the championships still on the line. All 3 others realistically are settled. Husk just has to finish this opening race, and with the lack of drivers in the class, the finish would be enough to get him to the title. So it's looking like it's going to be a good day for him, as it's going to likely be a good day for Andrew McKinley, and of course William Humphrey, but he's already won the drivers. He's looking for that team's title, and it's always nice to see his little bit of support in the chat.
Yeah, it really is. I've just given some back to his dad there, of course. He may not have many strengths, but winning races and winning championships certainly is one of them. But yeah, designing good liveries, that's just not it. I texted him saying it looks a little bit like Bart Simpson on the bonnet there, a little hairstyle. And we'll not, we'll not banter him too much for it, but yeah, I must say, if I was Matt Hoyland, I'll be thinking, what have you done to my livery? It looks like someone's vomited on it, but nonetheless, he'll ride us around the penultimate corner. The pace car will come in. We'll be underway then for 30 minutes here. And God, I only hope that these drivers make it through the first few corners. With so much on the line, it would be a shame to see it decided with someone else's misfortune. So fingers crossed we get some good action here at the start. Looks like Adam Atherton is not going to give him an inch here. He's right alongside the Porsche driver as we look to get under the way, and Humphrey has dropped the ball early. A couple of car lengths in before the start line. A huge gap between those 2 GT4 cars, a little bit further down the order, but through into turn 1 they lead. Single file is the top 3. Marius Hibner has managed to get up past Adam Atherton off the start. Side by side they go. They're not too many too wides until we get back here in the mid-pack. There's Nils Culler going on nicely as we get through now. Here come those TCR drivers. It'll be interesting actually to watch on the likes of Yannis Aubert. Here he comes trying to get through the TCRs. Let's ride on with him for just a moment, see how he handles these guys early on. Of course, the pace advantage is one thing, but you've also got to understand that Yannis is one of the quickest drivers in the field, and he will not want to be held up by these guys if he can avoid it in the early stages.
Yeah, and it's really good to see a good start from a couple of drivers further back. Yannis doing all he can to hustle his way up the order, of course, starting right at the back of the field. He has a lot of cars to work his way through with the with the team's championship on the line, with his driver's champion teammate. I think that he's going to have to get a few of these positions very early doors. Luke Bailey finding a way with Nils Kuhler, of course, championship contender in that GT4 AM class. Bailey just about keeping himself ahead of the lap lead as we see Spara going wide and off the road as they run their way through a difficult part of the track at Sheens, and as they come in towards Sterling's. They're still going to be side by side. Spara losing positions hand over fist. Charlie Stottard is going through there.
Yeah, quite a few battles here. Matt Stace, Daniel Poole going side by side in the final corner. Someone has just made contact there. I think it might have been Rob Gregg potentially mixing it in here. Klaas Vellen, that's Josh Ostick, Luke Bailey. This pack of 5 here, Joe Spara, looks like he's got the best seat in the house for these drivers. Looking into turn 1 on the second lap now with Luke Bailey ahead. Looks as though it's just about separated further up the track. Look at that great lunger on the outside. If he can keep it on the tarmac, which he has. He hasn't quite got a move done, but temporarily there, he was ahead of 2 drivers. That's Klaas Vellen momentarily going off the circuit. He's going to drop a few places, but manages to keep the inside line. Nils Kuller, championship challenger, is around and he's off. He's going to be able to keep it going. He's kept it out the barrier, but that's not what you want to see for someone fighting for the title. Of course, came in tonight just 6 points behind Liam Fraser, and now he's left him to run up the road. Here he is, Liam Fraser, already heading into the back section past Hawthorne's Bend, and he's got Robin Noah Brown ahead of him for company, but not too much pressure in behind. That's exactly what Liam Fraser wanted to see coming into this one tonight.
And of course, you can't drop any rounds from here on out, you can't drop any points at all. You have to pick up the points in the final evening of the season. And even so, I mean, Nils Kuller's dropped 28 points from his lowest round so far this season. He won't be dropping many. Moves in the background, that's Scott, I think, getting past Iyenga as they run their way in towards this tricky back part of the circuit. Iyenga stepping further and further back behind Andrew McKinley now, champion in waiting in the 152 to get through up into the top 3. But it's difficult for Niels Kula. He has to try and find his way back towards the rear end of that reverse grid, otherwise he really is in a lot of peril. And as things if things were to finish as they currently are, he'd pretty much need a retirement from Liam Fraser, otherwise in race 2, otherwise the championship could be over.
Yeah, down here in the TCR division then, Jay's doing exactly what he needs to do, setting purple lap times for the sake of it as well, really making his mark. He's got Jaden Scott, and we've seen these two sharing the same part of the racing circuit for the majority of the season. There's Yannis Ober making his way through the field nicely. He's already up 16 places, only got 3 more TCRs before he finds himself well in contention. P10 at the moment in class, so he's already scoring good points, of course. Jeff Hibbett has had an incident. He's out of the race. He's already there pushing on now. Going to get past Andrew McKinley. Really interesting battle here, actually, between Andrew, Jaden and Jay, of course. Somewhat championship reverse order. Andrew will fancy continuing his good form at the front by getting another race win, but he's got an open as Jaden runs off the circuit. That's not what he wants to see. That'll be an easy position for Andrew to take up, and now he's got a set after Jay. Let's see if he's got the race pace over Jay Corley. Of course, qualifying is one thing, but putting in those laps, lap after lap, is the difference between starting races well and finishing seasons strongly, of course. Andrew has done that to aplomb over the last 10 weeks. Jay's been there or thereabouts, but fighting for his own titles, his own trophy, should I say, at the moment. So let's keep our eyes on this one, see if Andrew can catch up to the back of that Team Shelter driver. It's become a little bit of a rivalry between the Lumen guys and the Team Shelter drivers, and Anthony will not stop if he can get past Mr. Corley at the moment, but he'll know, the man leading at the moment, that he's got to score as many points as he can if he wants to bring it home for Team Shelter in that team's championship tonight.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of guys on the circuit who have been thinking about the teams for quite some time, and will therefore be happy to be fighting for the championship towards the end of the season. Gets more drivers involved, of course. Even if you're not fighting for a drivers' championship, there's more than enough chance that you could be fighting for a team's championship by the end of the season. I think Klaas Valens got through on Charlie Stoddard in the GT4 category, up into P6 in the 217. Mercedes going along nicely. Somerset actually here between Charlie Stoddard and Klaas Valens. These two, it's not over yet as they run their way. Oh, very, very close as they get towards the end of the straight in towards Hawthorne's Bend, and it's just going to be Klaas Valens dunking it with his livery, well, I'm sure, into the inside down at Hawthorne Bend. Nothing that can be done at Westfield, Dingledale or Sheens for Luke Bailey to try and get through, but a nice little train of 4 cars forming for P6 here.
Yeah, nice and tidy. Lots of battles in all the classes, which is something that has been few and far between on occasion in this championship, but at least in the early phase here. 7 minutes gone and 23 remain, well 24 remain really. We've got some good battles that will continue. Daniel Poole's on the back of this one as well, as Yannis Ober challenges him for a position. So Yannis has done what he had to do getting past the TCRs. Now he's got to do what he can to get past the GT4 AM class. And Dara, there's some bad news here that pertains to the TCR AM class. Mr. Gordon Hales has had an incident, and I believe he's off the circuit.
It said he was out there, didn't it? Let's have a look at what happened to him. Oh, he's been sent on by one of the pros in the GT4s, I should say, and then gets a big old hit. That front left is going to be completely destroyed for Gordon Hales, and that's championship over, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think Lauren's there. Look, I mean, he's half a car from the inside here, and Gordon's done exactly what he had to do to stay out of that. Now, you know, you can't pass blame, but sadly, when you're a GT4 forcing your way through the field, you impact someone's championship. That's, yeah, it's just less than ideal. Sadly for Gordon, then 73 points he needed over, well, 74 points he needed over Sarah Cadesla. He's now out of this race. Well, he's in the pit lane. He might recover points good enough for P8, but Sarah Cadesla, 3-second margin at the front of his class. I think that might be that championship all wrapped up, of course. We'll keep totting up the points as we go to make sure that we don't jump the gun at any point tonight. But again, you would say that Gordon really did need positive results in both races, and he needed Hussein to have a negative result as well. Wasn't ever really in his hands. However, it's gone the complete other way in the early stage here. So it looks as though that could be championship fight over, sadly, for the South African Lumen driver.
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few unhappy moments back here. I mean, you know, everyone's happy clearly in Steve Donnelly's car. Kids and adults love it so. As they run their way through the end of the opening sector, they would go right there if they were on the Indy layout of the track, but of course they are not, and they continue onwards around the Grand Prix layout that has been used for some 20 years now. It's a very nice back end of the circuit, leafy, difficult to manoeuvre and difficult to make moves back here. It creates a bit of a challenge for the drivers and means that drivers can stay a little bit closer as they run through the final corner at Clark Curve. So opportunities are going to arise, and for Noel Brown, needs to be taking them, because being P4 at the moment, he's losing points to Liam Fraser, and as things were to stand, he's out of the championship, as Niels Kuda pretty much is as well, which would almost hand Liam Fraser the title with the one race to spare.
It certainly would, and it's looking good for most of these drivers. Interesting here, I want to cut back to this battle between Andrew McKinley and Jay Cawley, because this is heating up. It's the closest battle that we have for a race lead at the moment between two Honda drivers who, as we've said, share similar pace. It looks like, sadly, for Jay, that Andrew has the advantage over him over the race distance, of course. Didn't have the best qualifying session of his season, but it looks like the race pace is there. He's got Nils Culler, who's fighting his way back through the field, of course, as Joe Sparrow gets overtaken by Yannis Olberg. That's Yannis now with his first improvement in class, scoring now points in P9. That's right on board with Andrew then, as he looks to try and claim his way at the front of his championship. Jay will be defending, maybe not for his life, because he doesn't want to risk too much. Points in P2, still good enough to bring home some, a good tally for the teams, but he won't want to give this up to someone who's had enough. He's had enough fair share of his race wins throughout the season, of course. Jay, yet to win a race. Do you think that sort of the quality that Jay brings, he's a content creator who does a lot of driving in these TCR machines, to think that he hasn't had a single race win the whole season? Anthony Hilton, of course, had one last week. The rest of them, though, in the entire division have been done by Mr. McKinley and Mr. McKenzie. So Jay will maybe fancy his chances of getting his elbows out and trying to bring home those maximum points for the first time.
I think getting the points on the board earlier, sooner rather than later, is going to be absolutely critical, and can really give you that confidence boost that is required really for drivers going into the second part of the evening. I think particularly for, I think that there's definitely something to be said about winning the championship early. I think drivers will come into this, particularly in that AM class, in the GT4s, thinking about positioning themselves well for the likely second part of the evening and the second race and the points that will come with that. But being able to maybe win the championship before that is really going to be what is useful and what's going to be confidence inducing for a lot of the drivers tonight. I think especially in the teams, getting points on the board early puts you in a good position and allows you to look around and realise what you need to be doing in the second race to win that title or even to come in the top three. So what to be said about that. We'll keep on top of the numbers, of course, but still a ways to go in this opening race, even if the cars have spread out quite significantly.
So Edward Grove putting pressure on Robin Noel Brown. This is for the last place on the podium in the AM class, not even at the half race distance yet, so still lots to play for, lots on offer, of course. Edward not really in the fight for anything at the moment. 172 points he came into this evening away from the top three, so Robin will be thinking, come on mate, let's just let me catch up with John and get some good points for the teams. But Edward won't be caring about that at all. He'll fancy getting on the podium for just the fifth time for him this season. Thought he was thinking about it up the inside, but Noel Brown covered that one off nicely. The 221 has proven that he's got the pace in the GT3. He's there or thereabouts in the GT4s. Not winning trophies at the moment, though, and it's looking unlikely that he's going to do that. Let's take a look at how the field stacks up then. Liam Fraser inside the top 5 overall. Robin Noel Brown barely, just about, inside the top 10. I think is quite telling because Liam Fraser has the pace 3 seconds clear of Mitchell Costas. So Liam definitely has the pace tonight of some of those drivers in the top split, the top division. And so that won't worry him at all. Noel Brown just about fending off the Mercedes in behind. And McKinley still hasn't got himself past Corley, of course. Atherton fancies getting past Hibma, but William Humphrey is checking out of this one, as is Liam Fraser. And yeah, Jaden Scotton also dropping off the back of the lead too.
Yeah, Scotland with a little bit of work to do to try and drag it back towards the top of that TCR class. Of course, none of the TCRs are going to get reversed. They're going to start where they finished, which is kind of why we've seen a lot of drivers be able to finish in similar positions on the evening, qualifying being really important for them. Generally throughout the championship, you know, the likes of Jay Cooley getting 3 P3s at Mugello. It's not necessarily the top positions, but he can stay where he is because there's no kind of reverse element to concern them. James Hayworth, 3 P5s at Kota when we had 3 20-minute races. Like, it is possible to stay near the front, so qualifying being important there. And Cooley doing a great job is what's got him there. Scott doing a good job of qualifying has him in that top 3. It is telling that Cooley and McKinley are front away. Let's see if Jay could hold on though, because if he can, it would be his first win of the season right at the end. Andrew McKinley surely doesn't need a 10th, right?
Well, you'd think so, but I'm sure he won't care for that at all as the two Camry cars go side by side. Noel Brown, team orders in play potentially. Noel Brown knows that he's got the pace, gets himself past John Rudbrook, and now he can at least try to set off after Liam Fraser, but 6 seconds to recover in only 15 minutes is quite a difficult task then. Let's cut back to these two just about to head through that fast right-hander at Hawthorne's Bend. Of course, we've seen McKinley in that gearbox of Jay Corley for the last few laps. Something's got to give eventually. Haven't seen him try to make a move yet, of course. But for these two, it's 2 GT4s. I think that's Joe Sparrow and Lawrence and Alden making their way through the field. Let's hope that those two don't get involved. I think Sparrow is picking his battles here nicely because really he should be able to get past these. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does it now on the run down into the final corner. What we don't want is for those two to get in the way of this fight. Joe's sitting behind at the moment, which is good sportsmanship for the time being, of course. He's got to deal with that Mercedes in behind him as well, both fighting for a place inside the top 10 in their own class. Here they come then. Are they going to get mixed in with one another? Sparrow gets both cars into turn 1. Great move for him. Lawrence has a bit of a task on his hand now, but all things stay the same. In the TCR Pro class, felt the need there to defend for the first time. Did Jay Corley. Around the outside looks Andrew. He is going to just about get the traction. He's got the inside line, not quite got the overlap, and Jay cuts him off before they enter into bottom bend there. Now to run. This is going to go on, I'm sure, for quite a while. The pace has been very similar between these two, and not either of them are going to give each other an inch. Jay will defend, I'm sure, all the way to the line.
Yeah, and we're over halfway through this opening race of the evening, and opportunities are going to be running out to pick up these big points. But for Jay Cooley, he's got a lot of defending to do because Andrew McKinley, we know how fast he has been all season long. We know how much of a dangerous customer he is, and there's a lot to be said, I think, for the way McKinley could just pick his way through some of these battles and just appear at the front of the field when normally, a lot of drivers would struggle to work their way through fields, but McKinley's done such a great job at leading by example this season. It's why he's going to pick up the title tonight. It's a case of whether he wants to win the last couple of races or whether he wants to kind of share it out a bit.
No, definitely not. I'm sure that's not the mentality of a champion. Of course, you want to win, bring home as many points as you can, and if he wants to have an influence over the teams, then he can certainly do what he can. But at the moment, the pressure that he's putting on that gearbox of that Honda ahead does not suggest that he's going to make it easy for him at all, although we haven't seen him making any risky lunges. So it's definitely going to be a clean battle to the end, which is what we've come to expect from a lot of these TCR Pro drivers. Of course, there's been a healthy battle, particularly between the likes of Corley and Scotton, and then the two McKinley, McKenzie have done well side by side each other throughout the season as well. So I'm sure we'll see more of the same. And of course, Jay will be live at the moment. I believe his Twitch is in the description if anybody wants to go and ride on board with him to see how you defend your way around a race lead with a champion coming in behind you. So that's an interesting one if anyone wants to go and check that one out. First time I've actually given a shout out to any one of those streams. I always forget they're actually in the description of the broadcast. So yeah, go and see if Jade pretty calm about the situation at the moment. Is he feeling a little bit under pressure? We'll soon see how he handles that pressure if the Lumen driver eventually tries to make a move. I think it'll require a little bit of a run before he makes that move. I don't think we're going to see him lunging into any gaps that will quickly disappear, because we've been watching this battle for the last 4 or 5 laps and we're yet to see any of that. Potentially, Andrew might sit there right until the end, go for it on the last lap and then defend for just a handful of corners and convert the race win that way rather than going for it too early.
That would be pretty harsh, though, wouldn't it? On Jay, if he felt, gave him that hope of winning the race after pretty much half an hour of pressure and then just to snatch it away at the end. But you wouldn't rule it out. With any racing driver to do that kind of thing. Wait till the end of the race and feel like they're in a comfortable position where they can make the move, and not have enough time to make a mistake to lose it. On the flip side, Andrew McKinley, I'm sure, would back himself to make the move and pull significantly away from the rest. I don't think he'd have an issue with that. So maybe it's a case of him not able to make a move, or maybe it really is a case of him just being happy to sit in P2, not really wanting to risk a move because he knows that he's got everything wrapped up. He doesn't need the points. He's just racing now to confirm his title. But we'll wait and see. There's still 10 minutes to go. There's still 7 or 8 laps left. It's a bit of a duck and a dive. Not going to work out there, and he's going to sit behind once again.
Yeah, that was the first real sort of sign of pressure by McKinley, and I think, you could argue, is Andrew sort of conserving himself? I think he's got the pace over Jay at the moment. Didn't look that way during qualifying, but his best lap time during the race was 2 tenths quicker than Mr. Corley ahead. So, is Andrew just conserving those tyres, not pushing to the fullest extent? I would guess that Jay is showing us more of his true pace as he pushes to try and stay ahead. So, is Andrew just conserving a bit of fuel? Not that you need to do that. Keeping the tyres in good shape, not pushing too hard, knowing that in the final few laps of the race, he can then use those tyres to his advantage, try and maybe make a few moves in some more unorthodox places potentially. Not that it matters too much, as we say, just a couple of points. I think 5 points the difference in this race, but he will of course want to bring home that race victory, end this season on a high. But as we say, he knows now that the championship is all said and done, so maybe he doesn't feel the need to bring maximum points in for his team, who of course aren't fighting for an awful lot in that in the team's championship, although they are trying to get themselves into the top 5. There'll be no trophy on offer, but I guess a lot of these drivers would rather say we finish in the top 5 than the top 6. That's something that he might contend with. He's got a nice run there out of Hawthorne's Bend, but still nothing giving at the moment. We'll cut away from these guys because we've been on with them for quite some time, albeit not too much more going on around the circuit of any significance. John Ludbrook is still under pressure from Josh Ostick in behind. Robin Noel Brown and Yanis Aubert have made their way through the field together. Yanis is the one in behind Noel Brown at the moment. P7 and P8 on the road. P2 and P6 in class. Josh Ostick there, getting his way up the inside of Ludbrook, who went off the circuit through the left-hander. Good drive so far by this man. Yanis Aubert up 31 places from the start, well inside that reverse order. P6 in class at the moment, bringing home some strong points. Let's see how that reverse grid would look like. At the moment, Yanis would start on the second row of the grid. Edward Grove would take that provisional pole position, so Ostick, having got past Ludbrook, will really fancy getting on the back of Grove in the next 7.5 minutes. Marius Hibmer is the nearest driver in behind anybody else at the moment, pushing Adam Atherton all the way to the line to try and take home a few more points and get himself into P2 in his class.
It'll be good, and a really good showing for him. I think he'd be delighted with that finish overall. Niels Kula still around though, kicking Still kicking and screaming, alive in this race. Not quite out of the championship just yet. Inside the top 9. And if you can get through on Charlie Stoddard, it will be the top 8. I think it's a bit too far to get up towards Luke Bailey and Klaas Fellen, unless something happens to those two. However, for Niels Keuler, a P8 finish would be good enough to pick up 24 points. With Liam Fraser winning the race, he'd lose 26. But yeah, he'd still be within a margin that he's still officially within the championship margin, and it would be alive into the final race of the season. Niels Keuler inside line at turn 1. Gets the move done on Stoddard, and let's see if he can gain away, try and get anywhere near Luke Bailey and Klaas Fellen. It'll be a Herculean effort though, because if he's about 9, well, they get 9.7 behind. I mean, it's going to take a bit of a spin for the two up front, surely.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Nils would expect much in the next 6 minutes. I think this is the best that he can really hope for. But yeah, you've got to feel for him, because he would have been filled with optimism coming into this session tonight, and now it's kind of come undone about as early as you could hope for. But of course, still lots to play for. What he won't be too pleased by though is that Liam Fraser is all part of that reverse order. He'll start pretty much where he finishes at the moment, being in 5th position on the circuit, while Nils will start in 17th. So nowhere near getting inside that top 10, and he's now 10 seconds away from any more point scoring positions. So we'll tot up what Nils will need during the break to see if he can overcome that, but it would require Fraser probably DNF really from this race, from the second race. So sadly for Cullen, he's got a little bit less optimism, I'm sure now. Not over yet, but it's looking like it's going to go in favour of the Moonshiner Racing Club driver as things stand. 5.5 minutes to go then, and here is Marius Hibmer as he chases down Anna Matherton down toward the run into Hawthorne's Bend, the closest battle that we have on track. Jay Corley still defending Andrew McKinley, 3/10 that margin. Andrew still sitting there at the moment, and they haven't set fastest lap times. However, the last 2 lap times by McKinley have both been quicker than Corley by about 0.2 of a second. So McKinley definitely got some pace in reserve, I think, as we head into the final 5 minutes. Let's see if he chooses to unlock some of that pace and tries to get past the team shelter driver.
I'm sure he's got it in his locker. He's just not deciding to use it right now, which is somewhat surprising. But let's see if he is able to go for the move inside at the final corner. That's Marius Hibner. What am I talking about? Getting ahead of myself there, Joe. Marius Hibner getting the move done on the TCR, looking to try and get through on Adam Matherton as well. Still 4.5 minutes to go in this race, so definitely a chance for him to make his way into the top 2 here. But he'll need a little bit, he'll need a good run somewhere to make sure that he can get it stuck. Josh Ostick in P8 as well, like I said earlier, not been here for quite some time. And coming into the pit lane. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if that's drive-through related potentially. It's very easy to pick up incidents around here. The curves and the off-tracks can really mount pretty easily, and then a little bit of door bashing and a couple of incidents. Before you know it, you've hit 17, you're back in through the pit lane, of course. Ostick not really fighting for anything, so we won't mind that too much, but that is a shame with only 3 minutes to go. Yeah, he's had to come into the pit lane. So we join on again with these 2 Hondas, about equidistant to where we left them last time out. Nothing's really going to change for the next 3.5 minutes, but really will be intriguing to see, as we just said, will McKinley do anything about this, or is he quite happy bringing home these points at the moment in behind Corley? I'm not actually sure if these two have any sort of communication between one another, or if they're strictly competitors, of course. If they've built up some sort of friendship, then yeah, as you said, it might be Andrew might be saying, go on Jay, get that race win that you've wanted all season, but something tells me that they haven't probably got that kind of relationship. So I'm really intrigued. It would be good to speak to Andrew actually at the end of the evening to see if that was in his mind. Was he being friendly? We'll soon see in the next 2 minutes if he chooses to stay where he is. Never mind, he's going to have to go for it now surely, because Corley was off the road and that's going to give him a slight overlap. However, here comes Dean Sheesby. He's going to barge his way through. Andrew has backed out of that one early, and he probably for the best actually, because he would have been stuck on that outside line. The GT4 there looks like he got a worse exit than the 2 TCRs on the exit of Hawthorns. And yeah, I was going to say, Andrew would have been stuck on that outside line, so it probably would have been the most optimal way to take the race lead. It probably would have been quite impossible for him to do that, actually. And so he stayed put at the moment. Sheesby through from the back of the grid into a decent position for him in class. 2 minutes to go. That's right on board with the championship, with the title winner, should I say, and the current leader as he makes his way through the penultimate corner. It's been pretty tidy for him as he makes his way through this TCR traffic. Had nothing to shout about. 11 seconds clear. Much of the same at the moment for William Humphrey.
Yeah, you know, he's shown so much speed, hasn't he, all season long. And this is no different, lapping more of those TCR cars. Lapping that we haven't had to really deal with for quite a while in this championship. Of course, in the 45-minute races, it's always come into effect. But even at Bathurst, there wasn't a lot of it because the lap time was so long. Mugello, there was no problems with that, 320 minutes. Imola, we had a little bit of lapping, but again, not too much because the lap time was over or around that 2-minute mark. With the shorter distance of circuit here, it's meant that there's been a little bit more traffic and therefore a couple more opportunities for drivers, particularly if they can pick a better line through some of the traffic or can deal with the traffic better if you're a TCR. Give them some opportunities and give them some overtaking possibilities as well. So we can see a couple of those moves very much in the offing, nothing necessarily confirmed from what we've seen. You know, no one really able to put their foot down and make an aggressive kind of move, as most of the overtakes we've seen have been for lapped cars. But actually, having said that, Maris Hibner, I think, has just got through on Adam Atherton. I'm not too sure what that is. Might be down here up towards the back end of the circuit, but Hibner is into P2. He's overtaken the 348.
Let's go back and see how we got that one done. Is it just an off track there for the Mercedes? Yes, it upset his run. The Porsche got a great run around the outside. We'll have got that move done before they entered Hawthorns. You're right, Dara, just as we headed through that corner with the leaders of the TCR AM division, Martin Kenyon, chasing after Hussein Sarakadesla, keeping my eyes on the pace difference between Jay Corley and Andrew McKinley. It's teetering between 1/10 and 3/10 of a second. Nothing giving at the moment though, as that's who is that? The 274 making his way past Liam Fraser, splitting the AM leaders, wanting to get on with it. He's warning Sarakadesla that he might be coming through into the braking zone at turn 1. There he goes. Gets that move done nicely on the number 8, and Sarakadesla setting the fastest lap time of the session, 6, nearly 7/10 quicker than Kenyon on that last lap. We are on the final lap of the race, so I'll keep our eyes on William Humphrey. He's about to cross over the halfway point. These guys will have this lap and then one more to go. What will be 21 laps completed in this session. And yeah, nothing giving at the moment. Humphrey 11 seconds clear, Liam Fraser 6.7 clear, and in the TCR class though, going right down to the wire between the leaders.
Yeah, it is, and Kool-Aid just going to hold on as much as he can from Andrew McKinley behind, and McKinley still isn't looking like he's overly keen to make a move here. And he is trying all of that he can to find a way through. Let's see, can he make a move into turn 1? I'm not completely convinced that he will. I think he's just content to sit and wait behind, but these guys got the one more as Humphrey comes across.
Yeah, there it is then. Bart Simpson wins the race. The 398 does what he needed to do, and he finishes 10 seconds, nearly 11 clear of Marius Sidmer, and Adam Atherton will round out the podium in the GT4 Premier Class. Liam Fraser, what a race he's had. It's exactly what he needed coming into this evening, and that gets him one hand on that trophy. Hussein Sarkadez has just crossed the line to win in the TCR AM category, and for the remainder of this one, let's ride on board these guys. It's ironic, isn't it, that 3 class leaders have finished, even the guys in behind them, of course, who have finished under blue flags. In fact, even Jaden Scotton has finished the race, so it's pretty much these two and these two only who are still racing for any position. Everybody else is getting the checkered flag on their name now, so it's all eyes on McKinley and Corley. Is it going to go in favour of Jay? Something would tell me that it is. Andrew's running out of corners to make a move, and I would be surprised if he makes a late lunge at this point. So Jay may get what he's looked for all season long as they head now down toward the final corner in the same succession that we found them for the entirety of the evening. Fair play to McKinley I'm sure he could have got the move done. He chose not to, and that allows Jake Hawley to take home the victory, of course, his first of the season in the TCR Pro Class, bringing home maximum points so far for the Team Shelter, the Team Shelter team in the Teams Championship. I don't think I've ever said that word so many times in quick succession. I'm not sure, Dara, where did Anthony Hilton finish in that? We'll figure that out in a moment when we run through the order, and then we'll see. Fifth. So we'll have to check where Yanis finished, and then we'll see when we have eyes on that Teams Championship how that's influenced things. So I'll run through the finishing order, and perhaps you can do some totting up in the meantime, Dara, and then we will get underway for the warm-up, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a rest, I think, because the old vocal cords are shouting at me at the moment. So let's run through the race results for that first race. So then, William Humphrey won out once again for the Glasstech DXT team, bringing home maximum points for him, ahead of Marius Hibmer and Adam Atherton inside the top three. It was Thomas Pugh and Mitchell Cross as the top five, Yanis Bear from the back of the grid up into P6. Stephen Donnelly and Jeremy Olemans the top eight. It'll be Josh Ostick, actually, the two flatline drivers finishing next to one another. Then Lawrence and Alden from the back of the grid up into P10. It'll be Joe Sparrow rounding out in P11. Jeff Hibbert definitely won't score points, having finished 21 laps down after an early incident there at the start of the session. The GT4 AM class is won out by Liam Fraser, and then it's Robin Noah Brown and Edward Grobe rounding out the podium. John Ludbrook and Rob Gregg will finish ahead of Class Vellen, Luke Bailey and Nils Culler, the top eight. Sad for Nils, who was fighting right toward the front after qualifying, but quickly got displaced, and the best he could do was finish inside the top eight. Charlie Southard and Daniel Poole will finish ahead of Matt Stace and Dean Sheesby in what is a category full of point scorers. TCR Pro Class next with just 9 drivers up for points. It'll be, 8 drivers up for points, 9 drivers in the class. Jay Corley getting his first win of the season, 2 tenths clear of Andrew McKinley as they cross the line. Jaden Scott and Scott Markham and Anthony Hilton inside the top 5. Alec Yenga and James Howarth inside the top 7. Kevin Marshall and Max Nevin Charney the other way around. Max and then Kevin inside P8. And then sadly, Kevin will not score any points, and then looking at that, the difference of points in between P5 and P6 will be the net difference coming into it. What was it, 21 or 25 points? I think, 21 points, the difference coming into it then. So Team Shelter have brought that points gap down by whatever the points difference is between a P5 and a P6 finish. Looking at the TCR AM class then, it was Hussein Sarika Desler leading the way across the line to Martin Kenyon. Mark Parkhurst inside the top 3, Steve Rubino, Danny Weir, Dean Sargent, Gordon Hales, and I don't know, Andrew Fellows may or may not score points, having finished 4 laps down.
Yeah, I mean, some good results for a lot of drivers, some bad results for others, but there's always race number 2 to try and recover from a couple of DNFs, but generally, most drivers getting towards the end of the race. With Ben Smith not here, Yanis Aubert has put himself into second place of the championship. Thomas Pugh needs to finish in either second or first to take the trophy off of Ben Smith. That's the maths. He has to finish second or first. Otherwise, he's going to finish fourth of the championship. William Humphrey now has a 256 point gap back to anybody else, just showing how dominant he's been all season long. But only one who has had a decent opening race. Of course, Liam Fraser winning out in that AM class ahead of Robin L. Brown and Edward Grove. We've got John Ludbrook. I mean, P9 of the championship. He's not had the best of seasons, but a 6th top 5 for him is a decent way to get towards the end of his championship. Another top 6 as well for Class Vellen. He'd been consistent over the last few weeks as well. Sadly, though, it was for Niels Kula. Only P8 is all he could muster, and it means that there's a 32 point gap between himself and Liam Fraser heading into that final race of this season, coming up in just a moment's time. Good that everybody scored points though in that GT4 AM class. It's always positive to see everybody getting themselves a points tally. But it's not over yet there. It's over in every other class though. McKinley getting the P2 in the end in that race. Of course, couldn't quite find a way past Jay Cooley. Really well done to him on his first win of the season. But sadly, because Jaden Scott scored so many points, he is not going to be able to pick up a trophy, and he'll finish 4th in the championship this season, Joe.
Very good. So I took a quick look at the difference between 5th and 6th. It's only 3 points, so that by my calculations, that will bring the team's championship down to 18 points now between, well, of course, the 2 leaders actually only have the 2 drivers, of course. So if the net difference between the 2 TCR Pro drivers and the 2 GT4 Pro drivers of Allbear, Humphrey, Corley and Hilton is net 18, then we will see a swing in that championship. So eyes on those guys at the moment. I'm going to hand this one over to you, Dara, to run us through the grid ahead of our second race here.
Right, I am more than happy to do that. It'll be Edward Grobe on pole position from the GT4 AM class. Stephen Donnelly and Yannis Albert running up in 2nd and 3rd. The Irishman looking to try and get himself right to the sharp end. Robin L. Brown, of course, still, I think just about in the championship at GT4 AM class. In fact, that's a complete lie. He's 55 points away. It means he's out of contention now and won't be able to pick up anything from the championship. Will still get a trophy for finishing inside the top 3. Mitchell Costa's ahead of Liam Fraser, the be champion in waiting. He starts from P6 in this race, and Thomas Pugh, who needs a top 2 finish in this race to get his hands on a trophy, starts from 4th in class, 7th overall. Atherton, Hibner and William Humphrey round out the top 10, as it is that top 10 that have been reversed around. John LeBrook and Rob Gregg were just outside that reverse grid, along with Klaus Van and Luke Bailey in all AM row 6 and row 7, with an all-pro row 8 of Jeremy Ullmans and Josh Ostick. Niels Cooler needs somewhat of a miracle to get himself the title from here. Needs Lee Fraser to fall down the order and really needs to win the race from P17. Charlie Stottard, Lawrence out, and Daniel Poole round out the rest of the top 20. It's Joe Sparrow on that Stace on row 11 ahead of Dean Cheeseby before we get ourselves into some of the TCRs. Jay Cooley, Andrew McKinley and Jaden Scott podium sitters for the Pro Division. Just a minute ago, will find themselves starting in the front 3 slots. Scott Malcolm, Anthony Hilton, Alok Yanker and James Hayworth make it realistically an all-pro top 7 in that TCR class. Excuse me, before the AMs start to come through. Sarah Tesla, who has won the championship now in that class, starts from 31st out of Kenyon, Parkhurst and Robido. Danny Weir and Dean Sargent in the top 36. Max Nevitrani, Gordon Hales, Anthony Price and Kevin Marshall say are the top 40. And I think that will be that, Joe, unless we have one extra car.
Sorry.
But it's still... Oh, it's okay. Jeff Hibbert, that is. Front of the back.
There we go. There is one extra car. No, I was just thinking about the order of the teams, because it's quite interesting. As we've talked with the TCRs not having that reverse grid, the advantage does now swing in favour of the TCRs, of course, because Jay Corley and Anthony Hilton will start where they finished. At the moment, of course, things could all change in the first couple of laps, but as things stand, it's P1 and P5 for those guys, whereas William Humphrey's in P10 at the moment, well, P7 in class, and Yannis Aubert in P2 in class, right toward the front of the field. Then I'll hand this one back over to you, Dara, as we get underway for the final race start of the season. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's been a quick old season. Feels like we only started last week, but here we are, the final race of the season. Final points to be won for all of these drivers, and even though champions have been crowned, still everybody going to be tussling over their final opportunities to win a race this season. Edward Grobe will not lead down in towards turn 1. Yannis Albert immediately to the front of the field. Great start from him from 3rd to 1st in a flash. He's right to the front immediately. Hibber trying to find his way through alongside the likes of Greg, and we've got Sheesby and Kool-Aid in there, who is leading the way in the TCRs. Scott Malcolm gets a bit of a hit from behind. Got to be careful not to lose the rear end. Alaka Yenker and Anthony Hilton going side by side, making that little bit of contact. Hilton's got 1 on the exit, going to get a second inside line at turn number 3 as they drive their way through Graham Hill. Just about going to have the overlap as they run their way towards Surtees. Much better line for Anthony Hilton on that inside. Can he get it done? I believe he can as a car. Oh, is it off the road? It is off the road. That's Jay Cooley. No, it's not. It could be, actually. Yeah. No, Jay Cooley, that white car off on the side.
Apologies, everybody. The McLaren was Rob Gregg in the GT4, who was off the road. Pretty feisty between these leaders. Oh, Anthony Hilton, bit of a wobble. Oh no, who's that off the side? That's Scott Malcolm. Oh god, that wasn't good for me. That's Scott Malcolm off, and he's got significant damage on that rear left. Does that cause issues? What the hell happened there? Looks like a few drivers went off the road. Steve Rubino rejoining back onto the circuit. Luke Bailey going side by side with Joe Spara as they head into the final corner. I was worried there for a moment that it was Andrew McKinley who, in that Lumen car, who went off the circuit. Klaus Vellant has had an incident. He is out there trying to get back into the pit lane. You can see at the bottom of the picture William Humphrey around the outside of Marius Hibma. He's up 4 places at the start at the moment. Then it's P1 and P4 for the Glasstec DXT team. It's Jay Corley. It's P3 and P5 for the Team Shelter team. So at the moment it's going the way of Glasstec DXT, which is what Yanis and William would have wanted to see off the race start. It was a great lunge up the inside. Edward Grove, I think, was off the circuit there. Yes, he was. We saw that a little bit earlier on. Matt Stays under pressure from Dean Sheesby going into turn 4, turn 5. Liam Fraser getting done by John Ludbrook on the run down to Hawthorns. It's all kicking off. All the championships still up for grabs, but it's really ebbing and flowing in that team's championship.
It is, and I'm just trying to do a little bit of maths on to the P3 battle.
Ludbrook.
Oh, yeah, that's not really what Ludbrook needs at all. He's around, and the Camry GP2 team are going to suffer because of it. They're in a bit of a fight for P3 in the championship. In the teams with Axis Sport Blue with Kula, Pugh and Parkhurst, and I think they're going to fall a little bit further back, or they're going to be heavily depending on Ludbrook and Sarek Adesla, as we see Robin L. Brown in that Camry GP2 car going along nicely at the front of the field of the GT4, and wouldn't mind a win to close out his season, even if he is out of the championship. Fraser ahead of Kula means that he is on course for a Drivers' Championship as well. Really is going to come down to the wire in the teams, no doubt about that, but it looks like Glasstec are in a good position. Let's see if they can stay in that spot for the end of the race. You'd back Humphrey to maybe a little bit higher up the order than the P4 is currently in, but you can never count out some difficult moments, and we saw it at Zolder in the opening round of the season where William Humphrey came to blows and lost a lot of points because of it. Could always happen in the final race as well.
Is Sarek Adesla then defending against the pro class driver of James Howarth, who's going to look around the outside into turn 2 through Druids, goes the long way round, can't make that stick now. He's got Edward Grobe, who's going to have to look up the inside. He's going to have to maybe do a little switch around here to try and get past the TCRs. Blocked there by Howarth, will get the move done, I'm sure, into the next braking zone. Charlie Stothard, Liam Fraser going side by side. Trouble for Liam at the moment. I'm sure he's getting, well, he'll be confident about the points that he scored in that opening round, but what he doesn't want to be doing is mixing it in with some of these other guys. Up the inside goes Thomas Pugh in the pro class, but he's got Charlie Stothard in his class putting pressure on him at the moment. He is ahead as they head into the right-hander. It's going to be another right-hander coming up, which will favour the inside line. That's the move done by Charlie Stothard. Liam Fraser now in P3. You'll still be happy with that. Nils Culler in P4, so nothing giving for Nils at the moment, really. It would need to be a switch of position, a switch of the results from race 1 and then some, if anything was to be given to Nils at the moment. Mitchell Costas getting himself past Robin Noel Brown, keeping himself pretty at the front of the M class, 3.5 seconds clear of Charlie Stothard. It's been a dream start then for the leaders in pretty much each of the classes. Ober, Noel Brown, McKinley and Sarek Adesla leading their fields by over a second each. It's pretty much exactly what you need when you're coming out to finish a season.
Yeah, it's you want to be finishing on a high note, and I feel like there's quite a few drivers who feel like they will be doing so. Jay Cooley absolutely will be feeling that way, even if he drops a little bit further down the order here, because he's won his first race of the season in the last couple of races in season 2. You could call of this GT4 TCR. We've had a season of the TCRs on their own, we've had a season of the GT4s on their own. We're combining the two for the first time this season. Costas being pressured here by AM leader Robin Noel Brown as they make their way in towards this Grand Prix loop of this Brands Hatch circuit. Costa's doing a good job to defend, but as his teammate would suggest, I would agree that he probably is sweating in that car, as is Stephen Donnelly, because William Humphrey is trying to come around the outside, bit of door-to-door contact, and Bart looking for the move. I mean, he'd love a Haribo, I'm sure, but he wouldn't mind getting them in his rear-view mirror rather than directly in front of him. But William looking to make sure he stays in the top 3 now as Hitmer's around the outside. The Dane looking like he's got just about enough of an overlap to hold an outside line into turn 1, but never fun to be on the outside at the opening corner.
No, thankfully he'll have the inside line, and Will's very strong on the brakes going into this corner, so we'll get that one done now. It's Mitchell Costas who's next up. Oh, excuse me. Oh, dear me. A temporary sneeze on the cards there. Marius Sidmer thought about it into Druids, backed out, and allows Humphrey to continue on. Is that his race number on the roof, or does it say something there? Yeah, I think it's just his race number on the top of that machine. Yeah, so he nearly got himself past Donnelly, and then it'll be a 1-2 between he and Aubert. So, oh, Donnelly there, significantly slower on the mid-corner compared to the Porsche. He's got the run now down toward Hawthorns. Be interesting to see how these three fare. Marius Sidmer, the three of them sort of sequentially moving over to the left-hand side. Advantage goes to Hibmer at the moment by the looks of things. Is he going to send a late one on Humphrey? No, he's not. Stays where he is. Great battle between the 4 of them here, challenging for P2 in their class, separated by only a second here on the circuit. We can really see the closing speeds and the differences in quality between these 3 or 4 drivers. Humphrey putting pressure in the same part of the circuit once again over Stephen Donnelly. I think it's only a matter of time before Humphrey gets that run. It could happen into turn 1.
Could, but it was great to get a good view from the aerial camera of the circuit. You get a good sense of where some of the drivers are in relation to each other. Into turn 1, there's no moves in the offing for any one of us. I will say, with the 2 of us here this evening, Joe, it does feel like this is almost a GP waiting room, isn't it? With
a little
me
bit.
with a bit of a nose cold and you with a bit of a throat cold. Humphrey, though, around the outside at turn 2 at Druids. He's going to have the inside for turn 3. This is fantastic driving from the 398, the most dominant champion ESR's ever seen. Into the inside, gets himself up into the top 2. Hibner as well is going to have a run on the inside of Donnelly, the Dane, against the Irishman, who's going to win out. Looks like Hibner's got a good run, though. The Haribo may be sweet, but the line isn't quite as sweet. They run their way down the straight and in towards the tricky right-hander at Hawthorn. Donnelly's going to try and give it a go here. Is he going to just stick it up the inside? Oh, it gets very tight. He's all over the inside curb, and therefore the grass, as there isn't really much of a curb to speak of. Still there side by side as they work their way into a bend. Oh, there's a little bit of contact between the cars. Is Hibner still on the road? Yes, he is. Great defence from Donnelly. Looked like he'd lost the position, but he stuck in there, and for good reason.
Yeah, it didn't look like the greatest sector for Donnelly if he'd lost 2 of those positions in a matter of corners, but he's held off the pressure from Hibner all the while, though. That allows Humphrey to set off after his teammate, of course. I don't think they'll mind who wins out, but at the moment it's a 1-2. It's exactly what they would have hoped for coming into this race tonight. Meanwhile, in the TCR class, Scotland Hilton, Jay Corley, what's happened to Jay Corley? He's down to P7. I don't think he was that far down the order earlier on, so he has had an incident. Jay, look at this, he's all the way down in P34 on the road, so I think that might have just happened for him, actually. Let's go back and see what happened. Jay went off the circuit, 3 wide here. Is that Jaden Scotton, the damaged? Oh, look at that, 3 into 1, does not go. Oh, and he hits it into the barrier. I was going to say, can he keep it off the road, out of the barriers, but no, not on that instance. And let's see. Thing is that Scott on the inside, the 177. And yeah, I think Jay just maybe expected that the flatline car on the inside may have sort of gone further to the inside, but in the end, they squeezed him all the way to the outside. And yeah, that's not what you want when you're fighting for a top 3, fighting for a championship. And sadly, it's ended up in the barrier for Mr. Jay Corley, race 1 winner.
Yeah, and even though I think despite the fact that he's in the wall and he's not the best of second races, there's still positives to take. He's wrapped up P4 in the championship, couldn't get to P3. Made sure he didn't drop to P5, which I don't even think he could either. Actually, no, he could have done officially if he DNF'd to both races, but he couldn't after the opening race result. So, I mean, yeah. pretty pleasing evening for him, even if he's had a couple of issues in the second race. Gone well overall, and I think that is what he's going to be focusing on when he looks back on it in about 20 minutes time or so. But I think there's a few drivers who are going to be in the same boat. You know, good race 1, difficult race 2. Even if they can get a good result out of race 2 after not a great race 1, I think there's definitely positives to be drawn from quite a few of these guys. Going in towards that EGTC season, which will start on Sundays in only just a couple of weeks' time, and then of course going into the GT3s in a month or so. Yes, different machinery, but getting wins in any kind of car can always give you that bit of an added boost in terms of your confidence going into every single race, and it can give you that little bit of drive to go after a championship right from the start of a season. And it's going to be interesting to see which of the drivers who are here tonight can use a little bit of momentum towards the end of this season in the start of one of their next seasons.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually. For these guys in the TCRs, it's, you know, for some of them, sadly, it's going to be the last time that they drive these machines, at least at ESR, for a short while at least, of course. So some of the GT4 guys, not all of them, but some of them will, of course, be in that Sunday series on the European GT Championship. So they'll be familiar with the machine. They'll carry it over into that series. But for these guys, they've spent quite some time in that TCR. They had, of course, TCR Season 1, which then broke out for GT4 Season 1. And some of them have come back into that machine again. And now it's going to be over again. So maybe mixed emotions for some of these guys who are scoring in good positions, who maybe don't want the season to end. Is that a trip over the grass there for Jay Corley? Yes, it is. Styles it out nicely. He does over the grass there. Martin Kenyon off the circuit as well, a little bit further up. Here's Andrew McKinley. Didn't win the first race, but he's dominating in the second. 8.4 seconds clear of Alok Iyengar. Steve Rubino has just got past Martin Kenyon for the race lead. However, Kenyon's got him back past. He's understeered massively though into the final corner. Did keep it on the circuit. Mark Parkhurst now gets past Steve Rubino. Get away from each other, gents. That's not going to end well. Lots and lots happening in the TCR AM class. We've got 5 drivers here, from Kenyon down to Hales. Oh, never mind. Danny Weir's gone. Oh, he's kept him in the straight line, but that's not going to do his run any good. From Hales now all the way up to Kenyon. Oh, and there's another one gone. Oh, dear me. That wasn't the best sequence of corners for the South African driver, who I think was responsible for both of those incidents on Weir and then somebody else. Maybe I got that one wrong, actually. But bit of drama there. I was bigging up this 5-man battle for the lead, and now it's come down to a 3-man battle pretty quickly.
Yeah, Martin Kenyon may, get within 25 points or so of Gordon Hales by the end of the, or within 30, I should say, within Gordon Hales by the end of tonight, when he hasn't been really in contention with them all season long. Gordon Hales got off to a better start, and Martin Kenyon's caught up a little bit over the past few weeks, but yeah, never really looked like overtaking the South African, apart from if there were a couple of incidents tonight, which has materialised, and Gordon looks like he's definitely not going to be able to pick up many points. Still may pick up some, but at the same time there is a big risk that he's out of this race and out of the championship, which would be a shame, but he's driven a good season, and the South African could always hold his head up high. In terms of trophies for top 3 drivers, or top 3 drivers in championships coming into this race, only, William Humphrey and Alcibert have confirmed theirs to the GT4 Pros. Thomas Pugh needs a top 2 to get 1 in the GT4 Pros, otherwise Ben Smith's going to get it. In the GT4 AMs, Fraser, Cooler and Brown have all got theirs. We just don't quite know in what order yet. TCR Pros, McKinley's won the title, Mackenzie is 2nd, and Scotland is 3rd. They're locked into those places. In the TCR AMs, Simon Esler has won the championship, Gordon Hales is 2nd, and Martin Kenyon is 3rd. So the only things that can change around are the top 3 places in the GT4 AMs, and whether Thomas Pugh can get into the top 2 with Ben. Apart from that, all other top 3s are locked in for the end of the year. End of the season, I should say.
There we go. So it's usual when we get to the end of the championship. I'm not sure if you watched Chaz's stream back in the GT3s on Thursday night, but it was a crazy end to the season between Fraser Smith and Yannis Olber, where Yannis clinched that title in the final race right toward the end of the championship, which I think there was only a handful of laps to go when Fraser Smith was 1 position away from the title. He was joint on points, I believe. It was a bit like a Glock Hamilton moment around Interlagos, where one more position would have brought the title in favour of Smith, but in the end, he didn't get it, and it handed the position to sort of incoming race winner Yannis Aubert. Shame that we don't have something like that going on tonight, but I think, you know, it's a bit too much to expect. Sometimes Liam Fraser has got himself past Robin Noah Brown, which is changing hands in the lead of the GT4 AM class, and he's got Dean Sheesby in the way. Robin won't fancy that, and there's contact, and that's Noah Brown in the barrier. That's really not what you like to see when you're fighting for a top 3 place and somebody else gets in the way. Noah Brown will be really feisty now to try and make up those positions again. Dean Sheesby kind of getting caught up in that one, I think, a little bit there. A battle that wasn't really his.
Yeah, and yeah, not really what he needed in this race to get towards the end of his season. But Noel Brown is still looking to get his way into the top 2. Nils Cooley doing a good job to be there, but it looks like the top 3 in the championship are going to be in the top 3 by the end of the race in the order that they're going to finish the championship in as well, which would be a nice little way to end off the season in a way. Cooley just about to see there in that like almost browny but almost like purpley tinged car that has got the dog on the side. It's a pretty simple livery. He's had it all season long. It's worked for him, but sadly not going to work enough to get him the title in about 13 minutes time or so. I mean, we really are ticking down now for the end of the championship. I almost joked, well, I almost was joking earlier when I said that the championship feels like it started last week, but it really does feel like it's been a short 10 weeks. It's absolutely flown by, I think, for some of the drivers as well. Oh, Noel Brown nearly spins around. For some of the drivers, it's been a case of getting the points on the board early. Pugh's getting overtaken by Atherton around the outside, if Atherton can stick in there. But I think for quite a few of the guys here, an end of the season that's crept up very quickly, and for many they'll be disappointed, especially after a lot of championship battles were kind of locked in after about 5 weeks. No one has really been able to join, with the exception of maybe Liam Fraser on a difficult start to the season, but has come back into it. Atherton's still trying to hold it around the outside here of Thomas Pugh as they go side by side. This is a really good battle as they run on, but Atherton looks like he should have this one on the inside line, unless there's a good run around the outside by Pugh, and that's exactly what he's got.
Yeah, great battling at the moment, and it will come back to Atherton potentially into turn 1. Smart defence there by Thomas Pugh to cut him off before they enter the braking zone. Liam Fraser, the leader in the AM class, next to come through, and he'll stay where he is for the time being. Jaden Scotton under pressure. Oh, there he goes off the circle. That's Alaki Enga who goes off, rejoins, got a little bit of damage on the front right, goes around the outside to Scotton. Gets that move done. I think he'll have the favoured inside line into the final corner. Job done already. That's him up into P2. Just the 13 seconds to catch up to McKinley. And just a quick word for Mr. Captain Obvious in the chat. Thanks for letting me know that I'm losing my voice, Danny. I had absolutely no idea.
He doesn't miss these kind of things, does he?
He doesn't. He's
Danny
just so good. He's so good.
I'll tell you what he is missing. Wheels on his car, because he's not in the race, AJ. We could say that. Real shame about that. He's going to be able to finish in P4 in the championship, but not going to get a trophy, Joe. That's shocking, quite frankly.
Look at that, sharp as a pin. Absolutely, mate. Nothing gets past you at all. But yes, you know, I'm still here powering on, but I get a feeling when I wake up in the morning, it's not going to be the... it's not going to feel the best it's ever felt. William Humphrey sets the fastest lap of the race at 28.7, slowly bringing down that lap time toward his teammate. Huge gaps there at the front of the GT4 Pro class. 7 seconds, 7 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds. Nothing given at the moment. Just that battle between Atherton and Pugh running through turn 1. Once again, things starting to settle down. Jay Corley going side by side with Max Nevenchani. He's back up now into P6. Is he going to get the job done before they turn in? Max is still there. Goes around the outside. Keeps it nice and tidy. Gets that move done. I really shouldn't be doing these, these exertional... I don't even know what the word is. Oh, who's that off the road there? Is that Robin O'Brown? Took a little spin. Yes, he is. Let's go back and see what happened to him there then.
Let's have a look. Noel Brown Inside, outside, which way is he going? Oh, he dives late. Well, I mean, well, that move never really felt like it was on, did it? I don't think he
Lie.
expected the move either. I think it was just a bit of a late braking. And he didn't want to hit the rear end of the car in front. Let's see it again. Oh, well, actually, no. It looks like he goes for it and then thinks better of it, but it's too late to pull out. Weird one, really. I don't really see something like that in quite a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely gone for it. He's definitely gone for it.
Maybe he expected the car ahead to take a slightly different line, maybe, and then he ended up sort of turning in at the same point that he was the same gap that he was trying to fill. The car ahead was also trying to fill. A race to forget, really, for Noel Brown, but top 5 still not too bad, although he's not really going to have the time to catch up with anybody ahead. Sarika Tesla got himself past Andrew Fellows. Let's see how that one was done. This was for a place inside the top 4. It was a little bit of a slow launch out of the penultimate corner, which allowed Sarika Tesla up the inside, the number 8. Nice and easy job done on the number 44. Sarika Tesla now leading the way, of course, in his championship. Probably won the championship already, and with points in P4, I'm sure that will just add to that one. Martin Kenyon leading the way. Steve Rubino, I'm not sure what Steve's best finish of the season is. He's had a race win in round 1, only had one other podium around Long Beach, so far doing well for the number 7 flat cap racing driver, and he's got a chance to start the season with a win, potentially end the season with a win if he can get himself past the number 1 machine of Martin Kenyon. Something tells me this one, Dara, probably won't be as civil as the one that we saw between Jay Cole and Andrew McKinley first time round. I think Steve will pull out all the stops to try and put off Kenyon in these next 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, I think Kenyon's going to have a lot of work on his plate, but Rubino would love to end the season with a win instead of like that. He had just the one win this season that came back at Zolder in the second race. This is the 23rd race. It would be a fantastic time to cap off a fantastic season. It would be a good way to cap off a decent season with a fantastic result, is what I'm trying to say there. But I think there's a lot of drivers kind of in a similar position. Alok Iyengar definitely in that TCR Pro in P3. He struggled at times this season. He's got nothing better than a P2. That was at Bathurst, but a couple of podiums in the final few races would be a delight for him. And with only 6.5 minutes left on the clock, there's definitely going to be room to be looking for these moves. This is what Steve Rubino saw just a little while ago to get himself up a spot. Easy as you like, really. It's helpful when the drivers knock each other out in front.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is ahead, actually. But that's good news. What is that? The number... What was that? Number 6? 6'9", is that? I can't tell. The flavourful multicoloured livery there in the Hyundai ahead. But that was Steve Rubino into the lead of the race in the TCR AM class, however. Just half a lap later, Martin Kenyon has come back and taken that position right back off him. I'm trying to figure out who that is in that car ahead, actually. An unfamiliar livery, but all the while Kenyon will want to get past him because didn't quite make it easy for him going through Hawthorns. Put up a little bit of a fight. That cost Kenyon temporarily that position. Charlie Stothard has just gone out of the race. He's in the pit lane. Look at that in the Pro Class, Tara. There's not a single driver within a second of each other. And the same can nearly be said for the rest of the entire field. Alok Iyengar chasing down Jaden Scott, and Steve Rubino, of course, chasing down Martin Kenyon. I think this is going to be the best battle that we have got. Kenyon needs to get past this driver ahead. Not quite sure who it is, and he's... Oh, well... I think that's kind of peak Martin Kenyon there, to be quite honest with you. He gave him a little dunch, got him out the way, and then got on with it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's giving himself a clear track in front, doesn't he? But I was going to say also, does Martin Kenyon have an Aston Martin driver suit on? Because when we went to the onboards, you could see, I think it said Aramco on his arm. We'll see it here. That looks like it's the Aston Martin suit for me. I don't know. I'll have to wait till he turns right again. But either way, he's winning the race for that DXT team. I'm sure he'll have a nice cuppa after this.
Does that look? What does it say on the sleeve? That does look like a Ramco, yeah.
Oh, definitely on the chest that says Ramco. That's the M. That's definitely a Ramco.
Spotted by a font, which is always, you know, when you can start picking out fonts, that's always a good thing. Is it a good thing? I'm not quite sure. But
I don't know. I think it tells too much about you, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, well, it is for us. But here we go then. William Humphrey in between these two drivers. Kenyon got what he wanted, got himself through. Humphrey's going to stab it up the inside. Kenyon gives him the position. Is that going to give Steve Rubino a chance to get a little bit of a run? No, I think not. His chance might have gone amiss to try and get past. And look at this, critical here. Robin Noel Brown has just come into the pit lane. So that's his night over as well. Not sure if that was damage or if he just jumped to the pit lane. I don't see anything on the timing tower. I think he just came into the pits of his own accord there.
Yeah, interesting one, really. To see him come down the pit lane, didn't really look like there was much wrong with him. But hey, what drivers do, they do. We can't really question it too much. I think we're going to have 3 to go at the end of this because Albert will cross the line with more than enough time to complete 2 full laps. Because when does he cross the line? It'll be just before that 3-minute mark to go. He crosses it now. What's that done? 1:29. Yes, so we'll have about 4 seconds in hand. But we will get 3 more laps in this race. More than enough time for these battles to be settled, and a good amount of time for a couple of drivers to cruise home to victory. The likes of Albert, Fraser, and McKinley in that position. Sadly for Martin Kenny, though, he's not going to have that luxury. Oh, Zienga looks to try and force a move here.
Yeah, closest battle that we've got on track, and it's for quite a significant place for P2 in that TCR Pro category. Andrew McKinley, best part of 20 seconds up the road, so eyes on these drivers at the moment as we head into the final stages of this race. And of course, Mr. Iyenga hasn't really had a season to shout about. He got a podium this time, last time in on Bathurst. P2 finish was his best result of his championship season, and now he's on to potentially do that one again if he can get himself up past Scott. And that's not what you want to do, because Anthony Hilton is going to fancy it around the outside, just about affords the room. Anthony is probably going to put a little bit of pressure on him. Here comes Yannis Aubert, of course, the race leader, who's going to make it a little bit more tricky for Anthony to get past Alok in the closing stages here. 1:40 to go as Aubert crosses the line. And yeah, not too much to shout about. Daniel Poole and Edward Grove, Daniel Poole and Matt Stace, the 2 Flatline Racing Green cars doing battle at the moment. In fact, is that Flatline Racing Green or is that a different team? It's Flatline Racing Green and Flatline Racing Yellow, along with Flatline Blue, Turquoise and Purple as well, probably somewhere else around the circuit. I wonder how many of those guys are transferring over to GT3, if that's going to be a mouthful to handle. But sharing the circuit, probably a good way to end out the season, crossing the line with your teammate. And that's quite a nice way to do it.
It is, a little bit of a family feel can be found in quite a few of these teams, so it's always nice to have that camaraderie between the drivers, and especially when they are have been battling in the manner that they have. It's definitely going to be a fantastic way for them to round out the championship. And Daniel and Matt had a decent enough season between them in that Flatline Racing Yellow car. As have many other teammates. Maybe they're not going to cross the line together, but I'm sure there's going to be chats with quite a few of the teammates in, and they're going to be talking about situations, how their races are going, how they're feeling towards the end of the race. Maybe having a bit of a chat as the positions seem settled. I think it's definitely going to be quite a happy conversation in that Glass Deck DXT call, though, because Yannis and Humphrey first and second are heading, they're hurtling towards their team championship, aren't they?
Yeah, really good result for for those two at the moment. Yannis Aubert sets off on what will be his final lap of the race. William Humphrey 7 seconds behind him. Neither of them are pushing at the moment, just got to bring home what they've got, which is the best they can it's the best they can get as a team. It's been a great night for the pair of them. It's been a great night for the soon-to-be champions as well. And I must say, Noel's Colours done a great job through the adversity. He will finish in P2. Sadly for him, though, it won't be enough to get past Liam Fraser, but it's been a commendable effort for him in chasing down that title. But as we cross over onto the final lap for all categories and all classes, all of our championships have now been settled, so we will run you through that order as they cross the line. Hopefully we can speak to a handful of these drivers in the interview booth in just a few minutes time. Steve Rubino here getting, it's a pretty feisty pack here between some of the TCR drivers. I wouldn't like to be mixed up in that. Martin Kenyon's clear down the road, but Mark Parkhurst might fancy getting himself into P2 if he can get past Steve Rubino, of course. But there is a GT4 driver around the outside. He gets that move done nicely. Sarika Desler trying to get on the podium as well. That could be an opportunity for him. Yes, it is. Up the inside goes Sarika Desler. Great chance for him. Here comes Jonas Aubert to win the race, and in doing so brings home the team's championship for the GlassTech DXT Motorsports team. Aubert, Humphrey and Brandeir, what a championship they've had, and what a way to see it out. Here comes the GT4 Pro Class champion, who's had that said and done for quite some time. He takes home P2. Around the final corner comes the Moonshiner Racing 274 of Liam Fraser. He comes out of nowhere really to score maximum points and to win his championship in the GT4 AM class. Big congratulations to Liam. I'm sure we'll speak to him in just a few moments too. And then TCR Dara a little bit further down the pack, but here comes yet another champion making his way around the final sector now.
Yeah, it's been a great season. You know, all the way through, difficult calendar to negotiate, but Angela McKinley has done it with, you know, supremacy beneath him. Really has been an incredible asset to the league, as he's looking like he's going to pick up his 10th win of the season. Cross over that 1,100 point threshold, wasn't here at Zolder, so every point since then is going to count for the Scotsman, and you're really right that a champion is going to be the last driver to cross the line this season, and I'm sure he's going to be delighted. Flashing the lights, he is the champion, by quite some margin as well.
Martin Kenyon then has also won out in his race, and it is this man, Hussein Sarika Desler, who is the champion for the first time, I believe. He's been with ESR right since the beginning, since GT3 Season 1, and then he's managed to convert a championship finally for the number 8. So he sets off on his parade lap. Big congratulations to Mr. Sarika Desler. Quite a few of these drivers fancying a little bit of a pace lap. And then there's been a dramatic change apparently at the end of the race for Mr. Alok Iyengar. Let's see how this one was done. Heading around the final corner, Anthony Hilton putting him under pressure to try and get the move done. Understeers, and then he goes off the circuit.
Whoa.
And that's a big impact. That's a huge impact actually. But yeah, so Alok goes deep. I think he comes back over, does he? Yeah, he comes back across the face of Anthony Hilton. So that one sadly is on Alok Iyengar, and that one is a huge... I kind of want to see that from his perspective without taking too much time, but that did seem like a huge crash. If I can't find him on my timing tower, then maybe I'm not going to be able to do that. But Wax, oh my god, that was into the little channel, the little cut in between the two tyre walls there. But Anthony Hilton does claim that top spot, sorry, the final spot on that podium.
He does in the end. Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a tap, but it didn't mean Alok sent the rear end. He got the car back under control, then came back across, and I mean, there's nothing Anthony did wrong in that second bit. Alok kind of just putting himself into that position, which is a shame. But it means that that's how the race ends for him. I mean, he wasn't really fighting over much. He was always going to stay in P10 in the championship. That he couldn't get far up, couldn't get lower down. So, I mean, you know, I guess in the end, a little bit of disappointment, but it could have been worse, Gray.
Absolutely right, Dara. So let's take a run through the race results, and if you don't mind, I'm going to hand it back to you to run through the full works on this one, mate. Thank you.
Right then. Into the GT4 Pros, as I'm going to grab a quick screenshot of that before we go through. Jonas Aubert is going to win out the race. The German driver is going to bring home the team's championship as well. He finishes ahead of his driver's championship winning teammate of William Humphrey. Those two in the end, first and second in the championship. What a season for them, mind you. That's Yanis's first win of the season. Murray Simba was third ahead, Stephen Donnelly and Thomas Pugh fourth and fifth. Jeremy Ullermans and Adam Atherton rounded out the top 7. It was Mitchell Costas, Josh Rostick and Lawrence Nanowden who rounded out the top 10. Sadly for Sparrow and for Hibbard, they will not score points a very long way down. Over in the GT4 ARMS, it was a perfect night for Liam Fraser. 2 wins on the night. He secures his title for the Drivers' Championship. He will be, I'm sure, delighted with that. There was more than a fair few casualties in this class, though, throughout the course of the race. Niels Cooler and Luke Bailey finished on the podium, but Edward Groib and Daniel Poole were off of it in 4th and 5th. Matt Stakes was the only other driver on the lead lap, with Robin O'Brien and DGB a lap down. They're the only other point scorers. Charlie Stottard, Rob Gregg, Clark Villan, and John Lubrook too far down out of this race, and they won't score a thing. In the goodness me, TCR Pro class, Andrew McKinley, the champion, the Scotsman, wins out once again. He was the last driver to finish the race, which is why everybody else is a lap down. Didn't quite have that much of a lead, even though it was something about 25 seconds or so. It was James Scott and James Hayworth in 2nd and 3rd ahead of Cooley and Nevin Charlie. Anthony Hilton and Alok Ayanga 6th and 7th after Ayanga's acrobatics towards the end of the race. Scott Malcolm was P8. He will pick up points. Kevin Marshall say will not, sadly for him, he will not finish any of the final 4 races. And over in that TCR AM category, it will be a win for Martin Kenyon on the final race of the season. Steve Rubino was pressuring him, but in the end, only just held off Sarah Cadesla and Parkhurst as they came across the line in 3rd and in 4th. Anthony Fellows wasn't far away as well in 5th in a nice battle towards the end of the season for them. Gordon Hale's a lap down, Sargent a lap down. Danny Weir 12 down, won't pick up points. Sadly for him, he will finish the race on a DNF.
Very good, mate. So we will now do the necessaries and bring in some of our drivers, and we'll see how many of the champions we have to bring in and speak with us. So we are nearly good to go. And Dara, I'll leave it up to you who you want to bring in first, and we'll get things underway. But yeah, let's start with a few of our champions. I'm seeing we have 3/4 of them, if you include Yanis in that. So I'm sure we can get through some of those guys.
Yeah, I think let's bring in William and Yanis together. What do you reckon? As teams champions.
Yeah, go on, let's do that.
Yeah, let's bring him in. Right, so William Humphrey and Yanis Allbear were the 2 teams champions this evening. William, firstly, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yanis, well, can you hear us as well?
Yes, hello.
Good stuff, guys. Well, welcome in. We've got your performance on the screen now. So, excuse me, I'm a bit sick, so you'll have to bear with me. I guess Yanis, you can talk us through that one first. Coming from the back of the field, you were maybe sort of unsure about how things were going to turn out. It was a pretty good run through the field in the first half of that race, and then second race, it was just keeping yourself to yourself, getting out there at the front. You made a great move into turn 1. Got the job done right at the start, and then from then you just ran your own race. So talk us through that. How does it feel to finally win another championship for yourself after the successes that you had just a few nights ago?
I mean, I didn't win the championship, there was still William, but obviously the team's championship was still at stake here, and it's great to be able to hopefully close that down. I think we did it in the end.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of scared with the quali ban. You need to get the top 10, like you need to get the reverse pole or better than top 10 to be able to challenge in the second race. So as soon as I got that, I just kind of stopped and I just cruised around until the end of the first race. And then start of the second one, I think the guy who was starting on pole was a bit unsure about the tires, so he was taking it very cautiously through turn 1, and I could snatch the win.
But I mean, overall for you, Yanis, somewhat difficult season. Good to pick up the win at the end of it. Where does this leave you going into GT3's next season, Sundays as well? If you're here with us, it feels like it's a good point in time for you at the moment.
Yeah, to be fair, I'll stop for a bit, take a bit of a break, a bit of a breather. 2 nights racing is quite a lot, and obviously as soon as you're in championship contention, you just wanna actually perform well and not just fool around like I did last season GT4. So it's kind of exhausting. So I'm not doing next GT3 season. But yeah, sad to see the GT4s go as well.
And we'll come to you now, Will. So talk us through that one. You obviously saw your own championship out a couple of weeks ago, and now you showed up, did what needs to be done. You've brought home the team, so it's a double championship haul for you, of course. I'm not sure if you've done that before. You, of course, won the GT4s last time out, but coming into tonight, how did you feel around this kind of circuit? I'm sure it's one that you're familiar with, but between the pair of you, you've done a cracking job over the last 10 weeks. I know there's a little bit of doubt about where you might have ended up at the start of the season, but yeah, I think you've both done a cracking job.
Yeah, I think as a team we've done an absolutely fabulous job. We've had the support from everyone in both DXT and GlassTech and the ESR admin crew, and I think I couldn't have asked for a better teammate this season. He's been really nice. He's helped me out when I needed to, and he's been a bit of a buffer sometimes when I've needed it.
But as well for you, Will, it's been a really good championship. The consistency you've had is incredible. Do you think this can transfer in terms of pace for GT3?
Well, I naturally like GT3 more than GT4, more downforce, but and I'm certainly hoping they will transfer to GT3. But we'll find out on race day.
Good stuff, Will. Well, we quite a few people to get through, so we'll call it there with the parries. But I'll come to you first, Giannis. If you want to give anybody a shout out, then go ahead, and then after that, Will, you can do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Will was doing an amazing job. If he didn't perform like he did, basically winning nearly every race, we wouldn't have gotten the team's championship, especially because the TCRs don't have reverse pole and stuff. So like all the odds were against us, but we somehow made it work. And yeah, without Will, it wouldn't have been possible.
I'm going to reiterate mine from earlier. Just the ESR for setting up this awesome league. To be honest, I've had a lot of fun with it. GlassTech, DXT, anybody who's helped along the way, and just my family and friends.
Also, sorry, Francois, he wasn't doing a lot of the races, but he was. Sometimes it didn't feel like racing, and he said, "Come on, do it." So in the end, even without Francois, it wouldn't have been possible.
Point.
Yeah, you make a good point there, actually, Giannis. So it's good that you've shown up, got yourself a couple of championships in GT3, and now another one tonight, and then you can go away, take that rest, and hopefully come back refreshed. Because you're too quick to sit out for a while, but maybe a few months out the sim might do you some good. So awesome stuff. Well, congratulations once again to the Parries. I'm sure we'll be messaging each other later on. So until then, we'll go and speak to a few of the drivers. And yeah, I mean, Giannis, enjoy the break. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks back out on track in another 2 championships this time.
Let's go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff, lads. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Janos Silber and William Humphrey there are teams winners in the end in the team championship, because they class there, but in all classes they were the team champions. In the GT4 AMs though, we crowned winner tonight. It was a little bit up in the air. It was only a 6-point gap coming into this race, but in the end the driver who came out on top was Liam Fraser, the Moonshiners Racing Club driver. Joins us now. Liam, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Good stuff, Liam. Well, welcome back. We thought it wouldn't be long until we spoke to you again, and I mean, tell us how that feels. You had a cracking end to your GT3 championship, getting inside, some really, really good positions there. And then here, you've sort of come out of the blue a little bit, won the championship. Not to say that you were never there, but I didn't have you down as winning the championship. And then tonight, you've rocked up, done what you needed to do, and you've brought home a trophy in your debut and some good points, some good, a good result for the Moonshiners in your debut season in both of our competitions. So, how are you feeling after that one?
Oh, absolutely buzzing, absolutely buzzing. We're aiming for any trophy, and we went and got the best one.
But it's been a bit of an up and down season for you, Liam. You didn't start off amazingly well. You didn't get your first win until the 4th week of the season. But ever since then, you've won at least one race every single night. And in the end, a championship winning margin of only 37 points. But you've really come through the field, and to have 6 wins in those last 8 races, I mean, you must have been feeling really good in the car towards the end of the season.
Oh, I absolutely love the GT4s. I've really gelled with it. The Moonshiners, the boys have come over from RF2. This is our first proper league on iRacing. So there's been an adjustment there. It took a while to get on top of the GT4s. Took me a while to get my head around the multi-class inside the GT4s, to be honest. First race at Zolder, I didn't even figure we had 2 classes. I was racing anybody and everything for any inch of the track. So, and it turned out in retrospect, I was doing something silly, really, fighting with people I really didn't need to. So, and then race 2, I forgot to set off. I thought I was on pole, didn't I? Ended up holding up half the field in the right-hand lane, thinking I were on pole when I was second. So no, I didn't have a good start. I certainly didn't have myself down as a championship winner. Only in the past 2 or 3 rounds of a start believing. If I'd have drove like I drove in the back end of the season at the start, then it might have been a bigger margin, to be honest. Drove quite really smart, let everybody past in race 2 there. Probably a few too many people again. But I knew it would shake out, and it did shake out, and I knew what I needed to get done. The boys were feeding me what I needed to do. A bit of controversy, race 2 there. And I can show you it was unintentional. But one way or the other, I did what I had to do. And I'm absolutely chuffed.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, actually, Liam, so we'll put that one to bed and we'll see if it comes up anywhere. But I don't think we caught that on stream, so you've been saved in that regard. And I was just going to say, sometimes when, as you said, if you'd had the start of the season like you've had in the last couple of weeks, it'd have been a bigger margin, but sometimes you can give yourself sort of unnecessary pressure, right? So maybe it was a benefit for you to sort of be sort of slowly creeping up, and then you come in right at the end, give it your all, get the good results, and sort of snatch the championship somewhat. So, particularly over the last couple of rounds, thinking back to last week and this week, some pretty technical circuits. Bathurst last, Brands Hatch now. So, is that something that you sort of accepted? Are you quite good around these kind of places? Of course, you've had a cracking night tonight, but how did you find driving the Mercedes, particularly around a circuit like this tonight?
I felt like the Mercedes wasn't quite the car to be in. I think the Porsche was slightly quicker, but I don't think I'd have drove the Porsche quicker anyway. I've put my practice in these last 2 races, knowing full well I could do what I needed to do if I put my mind to it, and I really did. I stepped at the practice. I had a couple of days off during the week, so I've done some decent amount of laps. So I knew I could hold a decent pace. There's times when you're on autopilot and I'm still holding a decent pace because I've put the decent amount of practice in, and that left me just about enough headspace to think about what was going on in the championship, to let people through and not be too distracted with cars in front of me, and really think about who's around me. So Bathurst was an amazing track. Brands Hatch I was scared of. I was no longer scared of it, just because I got comfortable getting towards the end of the track. And the Mercedes is absolutely brilliant. They're just such a great car to drive.
Yeah, man, it sounds like you've really come together with it. So, and that's exactly what you need. It's no good having an unfavourable machine, but in the end of the season, you've done exactly what you needed to do. So, awesome stuff, mate. As always, big congratulations. You've been there, and now you've got it done. Debut season, it couldn't really have gone much better. And we'll ask you, as always, with a championship shout out to everybody, I'm sure that you normally do.
Thank you. Thanks of all. First, to everybody who's organised the league, everybody behind. If anybody's thinking about getting into league racing, this is definitely the place to do it. What people don't see is the stewarding behind the scenes. People are giving up their evenings to look at incidents, rule on incidents, and organising race after race. To you two guys for putting on such a great stream. It's so much fun to listen, hear your name called out, including everybody. Thank you to Noel Brown for really pushing me. I wouldn't have paid half as much attention to what I was doing if it weren't for you. Nils Cooler, the same. Congratulations to you both. Thank you to the Moonshiner boys, to Rob, to Dean, to Jim, GT Jimbo, in the wings, telling us he's got an eye on the stream and he's in the chat as well. So he's telling us what's going on, who's where. And to the boys from work that I know they've been watching tonight because it was on the line tonight. The Moonshiner boys pulled it off. Call the Moonshiners!
Good stuff, Liam, mate. Awesome. Absolutely love that. So, yeah, cracking stuff, mate. Top chap. So I'm glad that you spoke to us throughout the season. Great to see you finally rounded off. And, yeah, I'm not sure what your plans are for next season, but if we don't speak to you, well, then enjoy your league racing campaign as things go on.
Thank you, boys.
Good
Appreciate
stuff,
it.
Liam, mate. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of the week, sorry. And, yeah, wrap up this championship nicely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Liam. Always great to speak to him, particularly after a championship victory. There we go. Discord wasn't letting me do anything for a second there. Final champion that looks like we can speak to is our TCR Pro champion, Andrew McKinley, the Scotsman, winning the championship by quite a distance in the end. Andrew joins us now. Can you hear us, Andrew?
I can hear you. Hello.
Welcome back, Andrew, once again. So, big congratulations. It's been coming a little while. Logan took you all the way, but of course didn't turn up this evening. So, from the start of the session, really, it was all said and done. I'm not sure. I guess during practice, you might have been aware that he wasn't here. We saw a great battle between you and Jay Cawley in the first race. Talk us through that one. Did you have the pace to maybe try and get through? Were you happy in the position that you were in, knowing that the championship was more or less said and done? And then second race, man of the field, clear by many, many seconds, and you brought home the championship. First time of asking, mate.
Yeah. First of all, well done to Jay for winning race 1. I wasn't really going to fight him too much because I knew the championship was within reach, because I didn't really need to fight that much. But in race 2, I just absolutely cleared off into the distance.
I mean, Andrew, a great season overall. Wins Road America, Virginia, Sebring, Magello, Bathurst, here at Brands Hatch as well. Are there any particular highlights, or has it just been a blast all the way through?
It's just been really just like deja vu, just trying the best I can during the races and just see where I end up. Because Logan is definitely a really quick driver, and he did push me all the way through.
Sorry, mate, I was just dropping a little message there. So, yeah, I mean, talk us through this circuit. I was saying, I can't remember who it was I was saying to last week. I think it might have been Jay, potentially, that, you know, Bathurst isn't exactly the kind of track for TCR cars. I'm sure it was a good laugh, but this is, I mean, at least in my opinion, this is a prime circuit for these kind of machines. So how did it feel getting around here, back on UK soil, of course? And, yeah, what a fun track it must have been to round out the season.
Yeah, Brands Hatch is a really, really good track to race at. It was a great way to round off the season, and I absolutely loved driving around the track in the TCR. Best combo.
Awesome, man. Well, before we let you go, of course, we'll give you an opportunity to give a shout out to anybody. Of course, a lot of support, a lot of drivers for Lumen Motorsport, and a lot of support in the chat as well. So anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to, you can go ahead and do that now.
Well, big shout out to the team and the amount of effort they put into the team, but I want to say one particular person in the team is Sergio, who put all the training in and all the effort in, so he deserves the biggest credit out of the whole entire team, and I could not thank him anymore for the whole season, because he's a great driver, great person. Yeah, he's just amazing.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the title as well, of course. And I've been saying to the drivers, especially you in the TCR, I'm not sure if you have any plans to join us for our other series next season, but if not, then obviously best of luck to you in your future race league endeavours, I guess. But if you are, then we might see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Good stuff, Andrew. Enjoy the evening, mate, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, champion in the TCR Pro. That's everybody we got to be able to speak to this evening. Always great to speak to 4 champions in the end. They're going to get some nice old trophies in the post. Joe, the one that I got from James a couple of years ago, now sitting pride of place on my shelves still. So I think the same will be said for the drivers who win a trophy tonight.
What was that trophy for, Dara? Best commentator of the year?
It was actually, yeah. Just thanks,
So,
Joe.
stiff competition between that one. What, one of 2? Or did you
I
both
think
get
it
one?
was. Well, I don't think we both got one. Well, actually, no. I'm
Interesting.
pretty sure we didn't both get one. Because it would have been mentioned to me by the other one.
Yeah, well, I think, there's a reason why we've effectively gone and poached you and brought you back. So we were a big fan of the work back in the day, and now we've got you on board, which is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, good news for these drivers. Plenty of trophies that will be dished out. Of course, knowing the sort of order and shipment process, the trophies will probably arrive by the time we get to season 9, but that's all right. That's just the way things work. But those drivers will be looking forward to that, of course. Many on offer. What will that be? 12 dished out across the 4 championships, and then a further 15 or so, a further 12 dished out in the teams championship. So yeah, a lot to deal with for the Kame guys who provide those trophies and the main sponsorship. So that's it, Dara. Can you believe it? Started all the way back at the end of last year. We're now in March 25. The season's done. GT3 wrapped up earlier on Thursday, and now it's a little bit of a break before we look ahead to the European GT Series and the GT3 Season 8 series. If you want to give a little word on maybe your thoughts, feelings, looking into that ahead of the next couple of weeks, and then we'll wrap up for the last time for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's nice to have a couple of weeks of a break as a league. I think, drivers can start to, and actually us as well up here in the commentary box, can get a little bit refreshed and come back with brand new optimism for a new season. The Sunday night league looks like it's going to be absolutely stellar. I cannot wait for that to start. The pre-season race is going to be in, it's next weekend now, isn't it? Next Sunday. So 13 days away, but still not a long way away. And with the GT3 starting up once again right at the start of April, we're not going to be away for long, but it's always great to see that there's more to look forward to. And I really am looking forward to the series we've got coming up.
Yeah, me too. And I think that Sunday series will be a step in the right direction, a new thing for us, of course. Different format, different race night, of course, which is different. And the first time that we'll see GT3 and GT4 machinery sharing the same circuit. So, of course, you can find Mr. Dara and Mr. Bostock in the commentary box for that one. Alternate Sundays starting in just a couple of weeks' time from now on the Sunday, the 23rd of March. And then a little bit later on, a few weeks after, we get underway. As you say, rightly refreshed. Now, me, just down to the 1 session a week, which I think is good. We'll have a new look, Season 8, coming up for GT3, of course. Myself and Dara on Split A, looking after the Elite and the Pro drivers. And then we have Mr. Paul Walsh, who's joined us to give coverage on our B Split down there in the Premier and Evo classes. So lots in the offing at ESR as we look into our 8th season of GT3. What is, I think, our 11th or even 12th series overall right from the start. And yeah, I think we're all looking in the right direction. So thanks to everyone for hanging around. Thank you to Dara for joining me on both of these championships throughout this season. I'm going to go take a break now and stop talking for about as long as possible, really. Got no meetings in the morning, so I can just say nothing until at least lunchtime, which is definitely the plan. So thanks to everyone for watching. Appreciate you putting up with me, because I've been... there was at least one point tonight where I had a pretty bad voice break, but that's bound to happen at least once. I don't often watch these back, but I might have to watch a little bit of this one back just to see how terrible I sounded. But nonetheless, that's us done. So we'll catch you in a couple of weeks. You'll see Dara next before you see me. So keep your eyes out on the server for that one. But we cannot wait to get underway for 2 brand new championships. And we'll see you all very shortly. Thanks for watching.